Procedural and legal policies, some basics, organizational structure, city facilities and assets, budget overview, and then we'll take a pretty good break. In fact, I think we might have a break built into this first section as well. We'll take a break and then get into the departmental overviews. So, full agenda. We are going to try to move with pace, we as staff, but please don't let that keep you all from asking questions if you have any of those. Just because we're moving quickly, we want to make time to answer your questions. All right, so we'll start with governing documents. As you know, we are regulated by the Colorado Constitution, and but we are a home rule city. So we have a city charter, and we do have copies of that in your updated council resource guide. Apologies, Member Woodward, you don't receive an updated one of those, but you have your old one, and that document is there in paper copy. We also have the Code of Ordinances, which is where all of the legislation that you all make ends up in being codified and put into the Code of Ordinances. The Code of Ordinances is many of those binders, and it's housed online, so you don't have that full Code of Ordinances, but you can find that. What's our company's name that we use for that to host code? MuniCode, yeah, MuniCode. So a lot of municipalities use that system, and it links directly to our website. And then you have the council policy manual. We do have a copy of that in your council resource guide, which governs really the way council has elected to regulate itself. All right, in terms of our organizational chart, you can see that we have Inglewood citizens really at the top of the organizational chart. They elect a city council, they elect a municipal court judge. And so the municipal court judge is shown there. All of municipal court reports to him, Judge Jefferson. And then you have the city manager and the city attorney. They're appointed by council. Really, there should be a direct line from the city manager to the deputy city manager, as the deputy doesn't report to you all. So we'll get that fixed. But the deputy city manager oversees 5 departments that you can see there: city clerk, HR, IT, public works, and finance. And then I supervise directly both the deputy city manager as well as communications, community development, parks, rec, library, golf, police, South Platte Renew, and utilities. South Platte Renew and Utilities are unique in that they share a director, so Peter Van Rye is the director of both of those departments. Any questions about the org chart? All right, so we're going to go over the roles in local government. So we'll start with the role of mayor and council, and I think that's you, Tamara.
I didn't wear my glasses, so I'm going to scoot over so I can read this big screen, unfortunately. So charter provides defined roles for city council and describes exactly what city council should do in a broader scope. And then we've narrowed that down a bit within our municipal code and within, of course, our council policies. But one role of city council is legislative. So the legislative affairs of the city shall be vested in the city council, consisting of 7 council members. Of course, legislative is to adopt legislation, including resolutions and ordinances within the city. General powers, it states that any power that's conferred by general law shall be held by our city council, except as may be modified by our charter. And as we saw specifically in our charter review project, our charter does amend laws that would otherwise be applicable to the city, such as with our referendum process and our recall process, which changes the statutory process. Let's see. City council may delegate to boards and commissions. And of course, we have done that with various entities when we establish, for example, Historic Preservation Commission. Then they look at certain powers that otherwise city council would have the authority to do. Now that we do have powers that are expressly withheld from city council, specifically as it applies to our city manager form of government. In general, city council establishes policy, and then the city manager effectuates that policy through staff and specific practices within the city. And because of that, then council shall not directly interfere with the work of any officer or employee under the city manager. And of course, the only employees we have at the city that aren't under the city manager are myself, which is appointed directly by you, and the municipal court judge that is directly elected. And then it also states that we shall have an independent audit annually, or council can decide to have more than one audit annually if necessary. And in practice, we have various categories of council action, including vision goal setting that we usually do at the annual retreat in January. Explore and analyze issues that we often do during study sessions to bring issues to council to discuss and provide direction. Legislation and budget. Of course, that is a big duty of council, is to look at the funds we anticipate receiving every year and allocate those funds to fund city operations and further implement your policies. And then community relations. You're often the boots on the ground, the people come to with concerns that then you bring to staff. And performance management. So Sean and I are the only two employees that report directly to council, and so we have annual performance reviews or more as necessary. We change council policies to say it could be more than one. The city council thinks that's required.
All right, this is something that we've presented each year at orientation. Tim and I are going to tag team this. It's excerpted from someone actually local in Lakewood who wrote this for the Center for the Future of Local Governance. This has been used by NLC, the National League of Cities, I think by CML as well. And so what he outlines is, I think it's 12 or so different habits. So the first is think and act strategically, determine and achieve citizens' desires for the community's future. So it starts with vision. So that's what we've really worked on at the council retreat each year. We focus on that, giving you the opportunity to share your vision through the strategic plan. It involves defining the strategic issues that must be addressed to achieve the vision. So, you all are responsible for developing those long-range goals and then aligning the vision, the budget, to that vision. Second is respect shared constituency. What do the people need? So in this one, he talks about considering local government as part of a system of government, thinking about the fact that we are local, above us is county, then you have state, then you have federal, and thinking about us as part of a system of governance that's really a national system. And then governing horizontal with other local governments and community entities. We don't spend a lot of time on that. We have some opportunities, a happy hour with other, city councils around the area. You have your joint meeting with Littleton. We have an upcoming shared meeting with Littleton, Sheridan, and Inglewood. But thinking about how you connect to other governments as well. And then governing vertically, federal and state government. So we last year started our first opportunity for you all to interface with our state and federal representatives as well.
Thank you, and I'll cover the next two, so numbers 3 and 4. So 3 is to understand and demonstrate the elements of teams and teamwork. So about a year and a half ago, a staff-driven team of about 7 staff members led an effort to create mission, vision, and value statements for the city that were presented to council. One of the key values that was adopted was one of one team. So of course, as a council, the 7 members of council are one team, but you're also leaders of the much larger city staff. We have about 400 full-time employees, plus about 300 part-time and seasonal employees. And of course, you're also leaders of, I guess, what I would call Team Inglewood, the entire city. And so it's important that we view all of those as teams. And then number 4 is to have clearly defined roles and relationships, and that's really going to be a large focus of what we talk about tonight, what the role of council is vis-a-vis the directors, leadership team, staff, and other personnel in the city. So obviously developing strong relationships amongst yourself, but also amongst you and staff members is critical for success.
Okay, Member Woodward, you're up.
Thank you. First, I want to go back, habits of a successful council, and that very last line item, respect shared constituency. What do the people need? Adding to those last two, or that second to the last line, I would add in there Dr. Cog, Metro Mayor's Caucus, Tri-Cities here, which would be Sheridan, Inglewood, Littleton, and the CML Policy Committee, which we do have a member of. Understand and demonstrate the elements of teams and teamwork. As a body, speaking, acting, and fulfilling commitments with one voice in a mature, effective, reliable manner. One of the things I want to be real clear on here is that there's council at the top. It's after council, there's the city manager. There's a board of directors. There's the CEO, the city director, the city manager. And then from there are the city manager's directors, and the city council's role in that is to deal with the city manager, not the city directors or the city employees. So if you have questions, come back to your council requests, which I think I had marked up earlier on my sheets, that I think that's a really important thing. But as a team, there's got to be a hierarchy there that works really well. And I think if you want to get in trouble quick, and I know because I did it, was start talking to some employees and having an employee ask me to ask or to talk to another employee that wasn't even in this building when I first started, when I was initially appointed, about some problems they're having at work in their department. Well, I had no orientation. I had nothing. I was just all of a sudden a city council member at that time. I went and talked to that person and came back to the city manager and started talking to him at that time. And he got me very, very clear on how this system works. And I've never forgotten that, and want to make sure that people are clear, especially new members, how that works. Go through the city manager. It'll save you some embarrassment. Display fundamentals of teamwork, clear sense of purpose and goals. And that's what January is somewhat about, that whole goal-setting process in January. Takes a day, but it kind of sets out the format for the rest of the year. Have clearly defined roles and relationships. And I had also just marked on my sheet here, be very careful talking to the press, especially regarding police matters and ongoing investigations. I put just there, that's a no commenter for me, has been, and then later in the book or later in the material I read, don't say no comment to the press. Say something I don't know or something like that, but I've always said no comment. It's an ongoing investigation. Habits of a successful council: honor the board staff partnership. And council makes policy. We're doing the big picture things, what we want to do. Staff, through the city manager and the city attorney, make that happen. And again, I want to stress the point of staff these are all, for the most part, degreed people. They know what they're doing. They've gone to school specifically for this type of thing. And I haven't met any council members in Englewood that have gone to school to be a council member or a mayor pro tem. So rely on them and realize this is really teamwork. And it's coming from city council, it's coming and it's working its way down through the city manager, all the way to boards and commissions, and hopefully to an ordinance of some sort, making a law or setting our priorities. Allocating governing body time and energy appropriately. What achieves the best outcomes? All of us as council members are liaisons to our city's boards and commissions. And with that, that's where a lot of really good feedback comes from. And I know as a board, as a liaison in the past, up until this year, up until a month or two ago, I would never make a motion other than to approve the minutes. But at a board meeting, as the liaison, I don't make a motion to approve or second the emotion. And now I'm finding out, well, that's okay. You're a voting member, so go ahead and do that. And really, what is a motion? It opens the discussion. It starts the discussion. Here's a good one. Typical councils operate as governing body fewer than 200 hours a year. Maybe. I think it's a lot more than that. As a governing body, maybe in council meetings, but when you start looking at council meetings, boards and commissions, talking to the public, study sessions, it's a lot more than 200 hours. I had a member of the press ask me, and I think while I was mayor, at least on former council, if I would do this for minimum wage. And it took me about a minute to think about it. And I said, yeah, I would. I'd really appreciate the raise. So, you may.
When you're saying the board liaisons, are all liaisons on all boards voting members?
No, not all of them.
Okay.
I don't believe so anyway. As I recall, they're not. Are they all voting members?
Actually, and it's not only water and sewer, there are some other boards, but not all boards. So.
Yeah, that'll come when you start getting boards packets and that information. That's another booklet. Have clear rules and procedures for council meetings and follow them. Bob's Rules of Order. This was somewhat of a change for me because I was used to 9 years of Robert's Rules of Order. They're a little different. They're a little more stringent. They're more parliamentary. But Bob's rules are a modified, a little easier to work with, I think, and probably a good change. Here's one. Council often strays from rules and procedures in pursuit of informality and collegiality instead of staying on topic. Repeated comments and long discussions. I'm probably guilty of that as much as anybody, but hopefully the rules and procedures are good at that. The mayor should be able to call them out, the mayor pro tem, and Joe Anderson does a fine job of it. So thank you, Joe. Conduct systematic and valid assessments for policy implementations, public concerns, and elevation of council's own performance. Council should expect updates from staff, which is, staff is good at that. And council members need to seek that update and seek information as they feel they need it. And this may come as a surprise to some, Kim. Sometimes what you hear at council meetings, the public comment, isn't the majority of people. And an example of that I could use would be the public hearing for Sam's Automotive. At the public hearing, the comments that we had, there was one more public comment in favor of it than against it. Then there was the written public comment that came in that night and came in the next couple of days that had been sent into the city clerk's office and stuff. There was numerous in favor. I mean, the yes from the public comment, just the public comment, was much more than the no votes. As a council member, that's the type of thing I'm looking at. Where is that public comment? Not the same people every Monday night saying basically the same things. That isn't necessarily the full citizenry to me. Practice continuous personal learning and development as a leader. Here's one that, in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, this council is really weak on. And that is the education that you have opportunities to have and learn from through CML and National League cities, CML being Colorado Municipal League. CML has a conference in the summertime, different location typically every year. They have classes there that you can get so much information and learn so much about. And National League of Cities, they have 2 conferences a year, one usually in March in Washington, D.C. It's a what's called a congressional one. We used to go to that, and typically there was telling Sean today, we used to have 5 council members almost every year going to that. And some of us would go in on Friday. We would start classes Saturday morning, all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and pick the classes that we were going to. There's just a large variety of them. And you'd get in these groups nationally or in these classroom situations and stuff and bring up problems that you were having here and we couldn't figure out, or were brainstorming ideas and stuff, and ask it to the group. And somebody in the group, hopefully is going to have it. Well, 10 hands would go up. They had dealt with the same problem and they had resolved it. And you get to hear all these ideas, and just that networking of feedback is really, really valuable. was really valuable. They also have committees and councils. I was a member of the First-Tier Suburbs Council, which Inglewood is probably the most first-tier suburb in the city of, or in this metro area, literally being across the street. In fact, used to kid with Hickenlooper that we could stand on a yellow line, over a yellow line, and be in Denver and Inglewood. And some of the other cities around here, but we have certain things that are very similar to Denver and very dissimilar to Highlands Ranch or Lone Tree and other places. And so that whole council, it's the first-tier council, was really valuable. We would have a summer meeting, and one year Darren Hollingsworth and I went out to one in Manhattan Beach, California, which is a suburb of LA, and on economic development in these types of communities. And again, the networking becomes very valuable of knowing those mayors, those council members, and how they dealt with things. So I see somebody's up here, wants to take over, and that's the end for me. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I had my last one-on-one with Jim today, and he said, I'd really like to talk to council about the council staff relationship. And I said, I can do you one better. We have a whole section on it. So he volunteered to take this one. Thank you, Jim. Great feedback and great examples. All right, so our trivia at the end of this session is, what was the year the first mayor of Inglewood was elected? And no typing, Steve. I can see you Googling that. Anybody know? Oh, 1903. That's it. And what was their name? First, yeah, was that the and first name? Can you get the first name too? That the last name is correct. Starts with a J. Jacob. But very good, very well done. We should have done multiple choice, sorry, but look out, we didn't even need it. All right, I'm gonna go through the role of the city manager. So we do have one here that you can see may or may not have been amended 2 elections ago. I'll let you tell me which one that is. But oversee the laws and ordinances of the city, oversee and enforce. Appoint, suspend, transfer, remove city employees, prepare the city budget, prepare a year-end report, which is our annual report we send not only you, but all of the residents. Keep council advised of the financial condition needs of the city, which we do monthly. Supervise all the executive departments, enforce terms and conditions for public utility franchises and report violations to council. Advise city council, pretty broad one there, and really the directors and the departments do much of that in their staff reports. Inform the public about plans and activities of council and departments, which we try to do through social media and our communications department. Establish an accounting system, ensure legal financial provisions are in compliance, be responsible for engineering, architectural, maintenance, construction, and work equipment services required by the city, provide for the development and maintenance of airports and facilities for air transportation, and perform such duties as may be prescribed by this charter and required by council, not inconsistent with this charter. So member-elect Wright, which one is? That's right. We did remove 12. We missed that in our edits from the previous orientation. Sorry about that. All right, this is our organizational chart. Myself, Krista Gravy, is not only my executive assistant, she's your executive assistant too. So feel free to contact her if you have, something you need to purchase, attend a conference, if you need help with your calendar. She updates your council calendar, which your calendars are hopefully all linked to. So she gets information from city departments, boards and commissions, from the chamber, from the school district, and really uploads a lot of information for you to keep up with what's going on in the community. Deputy City Manager Dodd and his departments now. We also, in the last couple of years, have added the Sustainability Coordinator. That's a new program, as well as our GIS, now called Data and Analytics Division, which also is in the City Manager's office and helping Tim really tie in metrics and performance to our strategic plan. So have done a good job of that. All right, Stephanie.
I also don't have very good eyes, so. Uh, So for the role of the city clerk, it is specifically, the city clerk is called out several times in the charter, but specific charter requirements for the city clerk is that we are the clerk of council. So the city manager appoints a city clerk who, oops, I need to flip. You can see what I'm seeing. So the city manager appoints a city clerk, and then they are the clerk to council, receive petitions and other documents in the name of council, keep a journal of council proceedings, authenticate by signature and record all ordinances and resolutions in full, and then shall perform other duties as required by the charter or by the city manager. I am the designated election official for the city of Inglewood. We're in charge of oath of office filings. We are the keeper of the city seal, legal publications. I'm a voting member of the election commission. Sign, authenticate, number, and record adopted ordinances of the city. Codification, so we're responsible for the codification of all ordinances to the city code. The book of laws must be easily accessible to the public so that there's a clear understanding of the laws that are applicable within the city. Filing of formal and historical documents of the city, attestation of the mayor's signature, custodian of the public records, including the adopted budget, and then impasse resolution filings. For our org chart, we have doubled in size. We took over the Civic Center Hub, passport services, and mail services. So it is myself, Senior Deputy City Clerk Jackie McKinnon, Deputy City Clerk Sarah Harkness, our Records System and Program Manager Casey Rogers. We have 3 part-time customer experience assistants and 1 departmental assistant. So, heading up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you have a couple more there with now this year passports and the assignment of boards and commissions,
Yes.
which,
And these are just the charter requirements, what charter calls out. So when my departmental overview, we'll kind of dive in a little bit deeper on all of those, but you're right. Some new additions to the city clerk's office.
Okay, I'm back with charter requirements because the charter delineates what the city attorney's job duties are. Specifically, the city attorney is the legal representative of the city, and I advise council and city officials regarding their official powers and duties. One thing that may be difficult to grasp is who is actually my client. My client is the city, which means I have to act in the city's best interest. And I've been doing this since 2005. And what I found is people don't really understand that. Citizens will call and want legal advice because they are taxpayers, so I should give them legal advice because I'm the city's attorney. And I've also had individual council members call and request legal advice on issues, maybe something that happened in their personal life or something that wasn't specifically related to legal functions of the city. And in that case, I generally say, well, actually, I can't represent you. I can't give you legal advice, but then I try to provide some direction or a referral to where you can find that information. So as the city attorney, I represent the city in all legal proceedings, supervise or draft all ordinances, and the preparation of all other legal documents for the city. Often we'll see, however, that opposing counsel perhaps has drafted the document and then we revise and finalize it and negotiate it. I do attend all council meetings, or someone from my office does. Occasionally, of course, the deputy city attorney attends in my place if I have a conflict, but I try to minimize that whenever possible. Of course, city council may authorize me to settle claims. We did adopt a resolution last year that authorizes me to settle claims up to $10,000. That's significantly less than other city attorneys in my informal surveys, but it's a level that I'm more comfortable with because I think our council generally takes a more active role in our litigation and claims process and has set the policy that my office follows in that we enforce Inglewood's rights But when we're in the wrong, we try to quickly settle and make it right. Let's see. When directed by council, I institute or defend any suit. And of course, we have recently, in the past year and a half, instituted suits at council's direction to protect the city's interests. And of course, we do defend lawsuits as well. When somebody sues the city, often if it's an insurance coverage, CIRSA is our insurer, they may provide an insurance attorney to defend the suit. Otherwise, we do defend suits in-house as well. We have an agreement with CIRSA that we self-handle certain claims. If it's a nuisance claim and we think we can get it settled or dismissed pretty quickly, then we have an agreement with them that we will defend it in-house. We have 3 litigators in-house, or former litigators. We are on the civil side, but we do like to get back in the courtroom and negotiate on behalf of the city. We also do employ special counsel as approved by council. This is often for large special projects, like we had the charter review project, or if there is an area of expertise that's highly specialized. We hired outside counsel, for example, for telecommunications. There is 1 or 2 firms in the state of Colorado that are recognized as the telecommunications experts because it's federal and state law interactions. So we brought in outside counsel. We also have instances where we have conflicts of interest, where we use outside counsel. For example, we recently had a claim that involved a district where both myself and the deputy city attorney resided. So we had to recuse ourselves. So that happens occasionally as well. If we have a personal interest, or if we've been involved in a case before we came to work at the city, then we have to hire outside counsel by our ethics rules. Our org chart, it used to be quite a bit bigger. We have downsized. So now we have a contracted city prosecutor. We've always had a full-time city prosecutor, but he resigned. And so in order to get someone in quickly, we have contracted with Jonathan Lucero, who city council previously had appointed to fill in as our municipal court judge. So was very experienced in that role. Sergio Renteria is the assistant city attorney, a former ADA on the Eastern Slope. Victoria McDermott, deputy city attorney, and then Erica Gould is a paralegal. That's a new position. It used to be an admin position. And then we also eliminated the prosecution clerk position. There used to be an admin just for prosecution, but now Erica provides that admin support for prosecution when and if needed. So this, one more thing on this before I move on. I treat city money like it's my money. And I try to be very cognizant of every dollar we spend. And I want to justify it, and I want to show city council that we are wise stewards of taxpayer money. So by eliminating 2 full-time positions, we have been able to realize some budget savings. So that's always my goal.
Thank you. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the role of department directors. So we have something called a leadership team that meets 3 Wednesdays out of every month. The leadership team consists of 15 people, which includes the city manager and I, the city attorney, and then the directors of all of our departments, including the municipal court, the city attorney's office, and the city manager's office. There will be, as of January 1st, 14 departments in the city. I do want to stress that really directors really have 2 major roles. One, of course, is to run their department, and I'll talk a little bit in the next 2 slides about what that means. But number 2 really is to play an active role of the entire leadership of the city. So in these leadership team meetings that we have that last about 2 hours, we talk about city policies, initiatives, we get presentations and reports. And so one thing about leadership under City Manager Lewis is that everyone who's a part of the leadership team really has a hand, regardless of what department that they actually run, of overseeing the city. So a few key things that directors do are, number 1, they oversee the personnel of their departments. Our departments vary in size significantly. The smallest 2 are the city manager's office, or smallest 3, I should say, are the city manager's office, the city attorney's office, and our communications office. Those are all between 4 and 6 employees. And then we go up to the police department, which is well over 100, and then also South Platte Renew, which is, I think, just under 100. So managing personnel is a key role. Another role is to engage in the community. This is something we've taken a renewed focus on in the last couple years. As you know, this summer specifically at our Neighborhood Nights event, many of our, if not all of our directors visited those. They all often engage community members in different ways throughout the year. And also they work with our communications department on proactively communicating key projects and initiatives. Obviously, some of our departments are more internal than others. So our city clerk, our city attorney, HR, finance, and IT, they all do serve customers. They all take customer service very seriously, but in those cases, their customers are primarily internal, whereas most of the others have more external facing roles. So again, some of the reasons why we have directors, I'm just going to jump around a little bit, but again, to be a key part of our leadership team in managing the city, they obviously oversee key and specific programs. Every year, right around this time, each employee, including directors, does a tool called an employee development tool, or an EDT. In that tool, they identify with the city manager and I goals for new initiatives that they have during the year, as well as managing the performance of the existing initiatives and programs that they have. Also, as we discussed at a study session last week, they do have authority right now to approve purchase orders up to $10,000, which is in a current concurrence with our existing procurement policy that will be coming before you per the city council last week, I think in January. Check the exact date to discuss if you want to have any changes to that, but that is how it stands right now. They also, of course, oversee the budgets of their departments. Our finance, our budget administrator, Jenny Nolan, will go into more detail about this, but essentially an Englewood budget authority is at the department level. So directors do have the authority to move funds around at their discretion within the confines of their department throughout the year. And then, of course, as I mentioned, to focus on community engagement. So I do have a few trivia questions for you. The first is, what department director grew up in Englewood, had a grandfather who owned a store on Broadway, graduated from Englewood High School, and started their career with the city as a customer service representative at the rec center? Yep, good job. Good job. The next one is, which director has the longest tenure as a director? So not with the city, but as a director. Hint, they are in the audience. Brad Power. And then finally, who was the most recent director to be appointed to their position? I can also give you the same hint. Kind of. But appointed to their position, not their role. Yeah. So that's the tricky part, is that she will be the newest director, but she's been in the role of city clerk. Just the role of city clerk wasn't at the. But we can give Candy. It's close, yeah. But yeah, so the Joe Eisenbart was the most recent person to be promoted into the role, but I think you both are winners. So. Yeah. Yeah. Great, and I'll be turning it over back to Tamara and Stephanie.
Okay, Bob's Rules of Order. We already went over this one-on-one, and I know you all are familiar with it, so I will give a very brief overview. Bob's Rules of Order is a shortened version of Robert's Rules of Order designed specifically for Colorado municipalities and published by CML, Colorado Municipal League, that provides a streamlined procedure for Colorado cities to conduct business during council meetings. It provides for a motion and a second. There's several privileged motions, and then how to call a vote. I am going over this very quickly because CML is releasing a new version of Bob's Rules of Order. It's quite a bit more extensive, and we're just waiting for the books to come in. So when it does, I anticipate I will give a very thorough study session on what the new Bob's Rules of Order provides for, and it addresses things that are currently silent in the very shortened version of Bob's Rules of Order, such as what happens when council members get up and leave and you lose a quorum. So it's developed after working with several city attorneys and city officials. So we'll go over it in detail to determine if you want to adopt that. I keep following up with CML. They have sent a copy to the city clerks, but not to the city attorneys yet. I'm raring to go. I'm ready to present on it. We actually have adopted an older version of Bob's Rules of Order, so I'd like to get that rectified.
We're tag teaming. Colorado Open Records Act, we affectionately call CORA. Why is the act important? This ensures transparent and open government, guarantees the public with access to public records, promotes accountability of city employees and elected officials, and ensures the cost of producing records is borne by the requester, not all other taxpayers. The basics of CORA. Generally, almost all governmental record documents are public records. So that would be documents, emails, and text messages. What documents are not considered public records? Items that are protected by the state or federal law would be attorney-client privilege documents and correspondence, the contents of personnel files, letters of reference, trade secrets, privileged information, confidential commercial or financial information that's furnished or obtained from a person that cannot be accessed by the general public, sexual harassment investigations, work products and drafts, deliberative process materials, things like real estate appraisals, investigatory files. So that looks like a long list, but really almost every document that we produce here at the city and that corresponds with all of you is requestable and considered public record. How are they delivered to the public? We have a open records process that we like to use just because we like to track our public records requests. People will, submit those to the city clerk's office. By law, we have 3 days to provide a response. We email those out to the departments that need to provide the document. We like to get those, most records are digital, or we like to be able to provide them electronically. It's cheaper. It's faster for the requester to receive the information. If we aren't able to do that, we can do paper copies. We do charge a fee for that. And we can always make the document accessible for someone to come in and do that as well. State law keeps changing on CORA. We have a lot of legislation almost every year in regards to CORA. And so this slide might be a little out of, but we tend to stay in compliance with state law of what we can charge. We used to be very minimal, and then we do recognize that that's a responsibility of our government to get those fees back. So we do charge what the law allows. Right now, we currently charge $30 per hour, excluding the first hour. The first hour is always free. And then if we do have to make copies, we do 25 cents per copy. And then if it's under $5, we waive it.
And I'll just add on that, the clerk staff really tries to make CORA requests very specific so that most of them are free. Sometimes we will receive a very broad request for what could be thousands of documents, and then they really try to ask, what exactly are you looking for? Because if they're looking for information contained within one document, we usually can present it for free. Also from a council level, just be prepared that anything you put in writing could be subject to CORA and could be produced. So always remember that. If you're going to put it in a text or a Teams message or an email, just know if you wouldn't say it in an open public meeting, don't say it in an email. One time I was involved in some council communications that we had to produce, and it was embarrassing. So just keep that in mind, because I tend to side on openness. The law says that our records shall be open unless they're subject to an exception. And I always take the position we don't have anything to hide. We are an open book. We're open to our citizens and to your constituents. So that's our policy, that when in doubt, we produce it unless the law says that we can't. So open meetings laws. Colorado also requires that our meetings be open to the public. And there has been some misinformation, I think. Colorado law does not require us to record them, doesn't require us to put videos out of them, but we go above and beyond. And so, in fact, we've stopped meetings if we haven't had a recording or if it hasn't been distributed on our YouTube channel. But just know that's not required by CORA. I'm sorry, COML, C-O-M-L, Colorado Open Meetings Law. Instead, we're required to publish an agenda and keep our meetings open to the public. So let's see. I hit the highlights there from memory, and I don't know what the slide says because I didn't draft it. One thing to keep in mind is that reply to all can create an open meeting inadvertently if a discussion ensues regarding city business. So emails can be tricky, and so you'll find emails from me, IBCC everybody, so that no one can reply to all and we don't inadvertently create an open meeting that we should have noticed up. Let's see, also it can be if we're just in a public setting and there happens to be 3 council members discussing city business. No, the best practice is if even in a public setting, if there's 2 of you talking, that's perfectly fine. A third person, you may not be talking about city business, but people tend to think that it can lead to that. So generally, I would say a best practice is try to avoid groups of 3, except in a public meeting, 3 or more, of course. Let's see, and then there's some examples of other violations, and it goes to that, a breakfast meeting with 3 council members. Even if they inadvertently discuss city business, that should have been done in an open meeting because all of our business, anytime we discuss public business with 3 or more council members, it should be done after we notice up the meeting and open the doors and invite the public. Now, 2 council members is fine under the open meetings law. 2 council members do not apply, so 2 of you could get together over breakfast, for example, and discuss a city issue. Also, city staff members, open meetings law does not apply to us. So, for example, Sean and I will meet with council members one-on-one once a month. Open meetings law does not apply to that because Sean and I are not elected officials. Conflicts of interest. City Council first adopted a conflict of interest policy in 2006. Then we adopted a municipal code in 2021 that laid out our conflict of interest policy. In general, if something would impact your decision making, that's not just what's in the best interest of the city. Generally, you have to look at, does that create a conflict of interest? That's a very general, but if it impacts a family member, if you would make money from it, if it benefits you in some way financially, generally you have a conflict of interest. When in doubt, that's what I'm here for. If you have any question, if you have a conflict of interest or if you shouldn't participate in a discussion, just reach out to me and I'm happy to discuss it. That's my job. So here's some examples of conflict of interest. If you would be directly benefited by a decision of City Council, then you should not participate. And this conflict of interest policy also applies to city staff as well as the gift policy. We have other council ethical requirements for council members. For example, you can't disclose confidential city information to benefit your own personal financial interest. I think that one's common sense. But you shouldn't disclose confidential or privileged information. Often we'll go into executive session to discuss very confidential things, and those should be kept confidential. And again, I mean, the main one is don't do anything as a city council member that could benefit you or a family member. And then there's an appearance of impropriety. So it may not be a specific conflict of interest, but sometimes things just don't look right, they don't smell right. So if you think that something looks like you could benefit financially, or if you feel like someone may insert an improper motive, something like that, you can disclose an appearance of impropriety, and in fact, we recommend it. And in that case as well, I suggest that you first contact my office. We'll talk about how this applies to our conflicts policy, whether you're required to disclose it to the full council, whether you may choose to recuse from the discussion, even if you're not required to. I take, much like open records, I have the policy that if something just doesn't look right, and if it could call into question the validity of city council's actions, then just recuse and let the rest of city council decide the issue. But that's my personal position. Every single one of you have to decide what your personal position on that, and if whether you choose to recuse even when you're not required to. But I'm happy to talk about that one-on-one if and when it arises. So we do have a specific procedure for conflicts of interest. You disclose it either orally at a meeting or in writing. If you do have a conflict, let's say a decision, or you're selling a piece of land to the city, something like that, recusal is required, and then you shouldn't attempt to influence any other council members. Of course, and then don't vote or take official action. And again, if you're not sure, call me. I didn't have a trivia question, so.
We've got it.
Oh, perfect.
What is the federal version of the Open Records Act called? FOIA, yes, Freedom of Information Act. So, who got that one? Steve? And Rita too, I believe. Get some candy. All right. We are going to just go over a few basics before I turn it over to Jenny, who really has the heavy on just a budget overview that we wanted to give. The first thing that I want to provide you all is, with the exception of our fire stations, which are, we still maintain those, and we have 3 of those throughout the city. 2 of them are in use by Denver Fire. The 3rd is on Tejon. These are the city's main physical building assets. So we have, millions and millions of dollars of underground infrastructure, curbs, sidewalks, streets. But these are really the facilities that the city is tasked with maintaining in addition to those fire stations. You have South Platte Renew, the Inglewood Rec Center, the Allen Water Treatment Plant, Inglewood Police Department, Malley Recreation Center, and then here the Inglewood Civic Center. We are going to be doing an article in the next magazine about the city's taking ownership of the Civic Center, which is interesting. Now that we've dissolved EVE, we now fully own the Civic Center as opposed to that foundation owning it. So we've given you a map in your council resource guide with these facilities. These are maintained by Public Works, and they'll talk a little bit more about that in their overview. Any questions about that? And then this is the org chart again under basics. We've gone over this. And then also the next one with the water system. Peter, I noticed you had this on your slide, so I'm going to let you cover this. You can do that much better than I can, but a fascinating water supply system that the city of Inglewood has. And I think that that's all we had under that before we get into budget and finance overview. So Jenny Nolan is our budget administrator, and we'll be covering this.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of Finance Director Jackie Lowe, who's currently out of state. And my eyes are not as good, and I've made notes. So the first slide you have here is City Council's 2024 budget calendar. And there were several touch points where City Council was able to provide staff direction in the development and preparation of the 2024 city's operation and capital budgets. Starting in January 2023, this has been touched on earlier. Our 2024 budget season was kicked off with a City Council visioning and goal setting workshop that was conducted with City Council and the city leadership team. In April, city staff informed council of the preliminary 2024 budget assumptions for the general fund revenues and expenditures. And this data was based in part from the preliminary close of the 2023, the 2022 financial records, the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, a forecast from the Colorado Legislative Council, which is a nonpartisan state economic research group, as well as the Arapahoe County Assessor's Office regarding our certified assessed property valuations. Also in April, city staff presented to council the preliminary capital requests in a joint meeting with City Council, along with boards, commissions, and committee members who have capital budget oversight. Following in June, department staff presented council with their preliminary operational requests that may be impacting their service levels attributed to personnel and non-personnel program service costs, any potential revenue increases that might recover costs were also discussed, as well as any revisions to the capital requests that were presented in April. And then by August, the staff further refined their operational and capital budget requests and provided City Council with a draft proposed document. And by charter, the city must present a proposed budget no later than September 15th. And typically we'll present this budget document right around Labor Day, so right after Labor Day. And then that is followed within 3 weeks by a budget public hearing. And then one of the last council actions related to the budget is for City Council to review and approve the budget ordinances, which are presented to them twice. Upon passage of the second reading of the budget is adopted and effective January 1st of the following year. Okay. Oops. Do I need to? Oh, there we go. Thank you. This next slide is the 2024 sources and uses of funds. This pie chart provides the governmental and proprietary fund types in relation to each other and in terms of the sources and uses of funds. It also provides the beginning and estimated ending fund balance or funds balances for these fund types. All right, this next slide provides the general fund sources of funds for 2023, or 2024, excuse me. Basically, there was a 5.3% increase over our 2023 amended budget of $66 million, and $69.7 million is what we're anticipating to receive in 2024. The main revenue sources are sales and use tax, which is our largest revenue source for the general fund. And we've budgeted that at $45 million, and it represents about 65% of the revenue sources for the general fund. This revenue source was increased by 4% over our 2023 amended budget, and it also includes our 2023 0.3% sales and use tax increase, which represents approximately $3 million. $1 million is for alternate leasing services centered around issues of homelessness, mental health, and addiction. And then $2 million is for streets repairs and maintenance. Property tax represents about 9% of our revenue sources at $6.3 million. I don't know if you listened to the news last week, but Governor Polis signed Senate Bill 23B-001, and this is going to reduce property tax collections for the city by approximately $300,000, we're estimating. We'll know more about that later in December once we get our certified numbers from the county. And we do have a delay because of this legislative act. We will not need to certify our mill levy until January 10th. And typically we certify that on December 15th. Let's see. I think those are the main points on that. And then as we're talking about our uses of funds for the general fund, if we exclude transfers out to the PIF and the Englewood Downtown Development Authority, and PIF is Public Improvement Fund, our operating expenditures increased 8% from $64.9 million of our amended 2023 budget to $70 million for 2024. And this expenditure includes enhancement requests related to personnel of about 4.5 FTEs or $541,000. It also includes some non-personnel operational costs of approximately $1.8 million. The majority of funds budgeted in the general fund relate to direct services departments, and those are represented by the police department at $27.6 million. Of that, fire suppression and emergency management services provided by Denver Fire Company and Arapahoe County respectively is about $7.4 million of that. Public Works has a budget of $11.7 million, or approximately 15.6%. Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf. It's basically Parks, Rec, Library, because golf is its own enterprise fund. They represent $10.1 million of the budget, or 13.5%. These direct services departments in total represent 65.9% of our uses of funds, or approximately $49.4 million. Then our transfers out to the Public Improvement Fund, 4.2 relates to about 5 projects that were approved by City Council. We also have $320,000 for the Bellevue Park Train, and for the Englewood Downtown Development Authority, we're planning to transfer for their activated wellness and South Broadway districts $400,000. Our contingency, or what we're referring to now as our citywide centralized programs, we've budgeted about $2.7 million, but when we put together the budget, we hadn't allocated $1 million of the class comp estimated implementation costs. And so even though the budget shows $2.7 million, $1 million is for 2023 implementation, and then the second $1 million is for 2024 implementation costs. And that $1 million will be presented to Council on January 8th for a budget supplemental. The $700,000 relates to pay leave requests. So if, as employees are separating from the city, we pay that annual leave payout to them. Also, employees have the option to convert some of their PTO or paid time off hours to cash at the end of the year. It's a one-time election, but that is a benefit to the employees. We also have a foreign language stipend included in this amount, tuition reimbursement, internship programs, website accessibility mitigation software licenses, IT-related equipment for new positions, and the city clerk's office is going to be digitizing records for the next 5 years. So this amount will be in this particular account for the next 5 years. All right. And then this slide is providing you a detail of our various governmental funds that we budget for. Just wanted to go over really quickly some of the sources of funds for these particular funds. The Conservation Trust Fund, its main source of funds is the Colorado State Lottery Funds. Donors Fund, that's typically if citizens or organizations are going to donate or provide contributions to the city. We also account for the police forfeiture funds, and those are funds that are received by the confiscation of property from criminal activities. The Parks and Rec Trust Fund and the Malley Senior Trust Fund, they'll receive minimal donations throughout the year that can be used for parks maintenance or recreation center maintenance, as well as Malley Senior Center maintenance. The Open Space Fund accounts for the 0.25% of Arapahoe County open space sales and use tax, and that can be used to maintain or acquire open space lands. We're down to one debt service fund, and this is for the general obligation bond that was used to construct the police headquarters building. And the balance remaining, we refer to this as our bond premium funds. So we still have some money to spend down here that we can use based on law enforcement or safety activities. And our capital projects funds, we've got the public improvement fund, and those are, this accounts for projects that the public can use, so for streets, bridges. And then we also have the capital projects fund, which is more for general government departments' capital requests, such as IT-related equipment or network support. And then the other one is our police headquarters construction fund. As I mentioned, this is just our bonds premium that we still have yet to spend down. And then under the proprietary funds, we've got the enterprise funds as well as internal service funds. And what did I want to say here? Oh, just wanted to inform you that there are rate increases planned for both the water, sewer, and stormwater. Water and sewer have a rate increase of 4.5%, and this is basically to support the system investments and maintenance of the water fund, sewer fund, and the stormwater fund. There is a 7.2% rate increase for the stormwater drainage fund. And then the internal service funds are basically departments that provide other services to other city departments. So for example, we've got the SURF, the Capital Equipment Replacement Fund, and that's for the replacement of any vehicles, equipment that departments will have acquired. And then we basically set aside funds for that replacement in 10, 15, 20 years. So we'll be charging those departments back until we have enough funds to replace that vehicle when the time comes. All right. I think I might have a trivia question. Oh, please.
For the water, sewer, and storm drain increases, can you tell me percentage for each one of those categories?
There
Or
was
is
a
it just one percentage that will apply to all three?
the increase for the water fund is 4.5%. There's also a 3.93 for connection charges, but like for your water bill, 3.93. And that's connection, you know, if you're actually connecting to the line, and Peter can
Okay.
probably explain that better than I.
I understand, like if you're turning on for the first time.
I think it's when you're connecting into the system. So
Oh,
you're buying it like a tap,
I
like a
understand.
Okay. And then sewer fund would be the same for water or collection charges. There'll be 4.5%. And then 3.93% for connection into the system
And when does that, the 4.5%?
take effect?
Yes.
In January of
Okay.
2024.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then stormwater is at 7.2%.
That's on January of,
1st of 2024 as well.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions before we get to the trivia?
Actually, on the $50,000 for the source of funds in the police, it's the slide before this, I think. The police building construction fund, it says estimated sources, $50,000. Is that interest
It is,
on 2.8 million?
yes.
Right. Okay.
And that's probably being very conservative. It's probably going to be more than that.
Okay. Would you go back one more slide? It seems like I had another question on the previous slide. Oh, it was the $1 million for the comp and class. Was that covered under the contingency? You said it's not in the 2.7. Then does it have to be added to the 2023 amount, the 1.5?
2023, well, the 1 million comp class, no, that was already budgeted for 2023, and we just allocated that $1 million last week during the budget supplemental. Why we had to show it here as 2.7 is because we hadn't allocated that money prior to the completion of our budget process. If we had allocated that in March, you'd only be seeing $1.7 million here. But in order to carry over that cost so that we don't short ourselves in the budget, we had to add that to contingency. It looks like it's twice, but if you look at the year-over-year change, it's only $1 million.
Okay. So, but it was already included in the 1.5 million, or it wasn't included there? It was up in human.
It was included in the 1.5.
Okay, 1.5.
Okay.
So that's our 2020. If you look over here, this is really our 2024
Okay.
change.
And the differences.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I have two more questions. Looking at, do we not collect fees for late books and stuff at the library?
Starting in 2024, we will not. But in the past, we had been collecting fees, and I think it was very minimal. So library fines, it was less than $1,000. So that's because we're showing it in millions. It's
Right. I would expect we wouldn't. Is there a reason we've decided not to collect fees any longer?
Yes, it's really kind of the common practice now. Libraries aren't doing that. You do have to pay the full replacement costs if you don't bring something back, and we can track you down. But we can have Christina Underhill, the director, cover that in her presentation, if that's all right.
Okay, and then the debt service, is that like a debt collector that we pay to?
our debt service fund, that's the general obligation bond that we issued back in 2017 to construct our police headquarters building. So that fund number 25, police general obligation bond, we'll be paying that out through till 2036.
So anytime you see debt service, can you go to one of the slides that has the debt service as a line item that she's
Right,
referencing?
it's uses of
Oh,
funds
and
2022.
Oh, this debt service here?
Yes.
This is for the we have an old qualified energy conservation bond that we're repaying, and that will cease on paying that debt. I think we have it budgeted for $141,000 this year, or for 2024, and that debt will expire in 2026.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
only have 3 more years on that one,
Okay. Thank you.
or 2 more, excuse me.
Okay.
Okay, got my trivia. All righty. How many city funds were budgeted for in 2024? I'll give you 3 parts. Was it 15, 20, or 25? How many funds did we budget for? 25? 20. All right. The longest tenured person in finance would be Carolyn Liebner. over 35. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that brings us to our break. So we did not have a break in the first section, a second break, so sorry about that, but let's take 10, 15 minutes and maybe be back here at 7:40. That'll work.
Okay.
All right, good.
Yeah, you had a plan.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a couple of how-to guides and a media policy actually before we get to the departmental overviews. So we're going to just quickly walk you through. And for Member-elect Wright, you were given a lot of this in your council onboarding, so we won't spend a lot of time on this. But just to remind everybody that council members are given P cards. We have to follow the purchasing card policies, which are in your council resource guide, and that those have to be reconciled each month. Krista can help you with that on those purchasing cards. You also have a travel policy, and Krista Gravy is your travel facilitator. Page 16 of the council policy and procedure manual in your resource guide has all of the details about that. The main thing to know on travel and training is that it has to be brought to the council before you leave for final approval. So that's one of the interesting notes about the travel policy. Just let us know that you plan on attending that at a council meeting. And then, as it says, 30 days actually in advance. So, and Krista can help process all of those. We also wanted to, a couple of these slides I think have maybe a mistaken heading here, but the hosting a neighborhood meeting, we have steps in your council resource guide on how to do that the communications team put together. But it can be, a really good way of connecting with residents. We are able to help with some of the coordinating some logistics on those neighborhoods. This is the one that should say, what is a council request? Council requests are a benefit to council members to get information on any topic that they want or need. So it's a written request. Those typically come through my office, but you can also submit those in these different avenues. iCompass has a portal for you all. When you sign in, you have to sign in, log in to iCompass. So not anybody can submit a council request, only council members. When you sign in, you can find that at a council meeting at the end during council members' choice. You can email those to me, or during our one-on-ones. A lot of times it's most helpful to discuss or tell me, here's what I want, and then I can tell you what sources are available so we can really hone in on the question that you're asking. We have a couple of examples. A strong council request would be, what are the city's criteria for requiring detention ponds in new developments? A weak, or maybe not appropriate one, would be, who failed to lock the Civic Center's door on Veterans Day? That would not be a great council request. Another example, please provide a 20-year history of vendors the city has used for office furniture. That would take an incredible amount of time pulling archives out of boxes in basements, and yes, although hopefully with our records management system we're putting in place, that might be a little easier in the future. And then technology agenda council web pages. You've been issued computers. iCompass logins have been provided. We do have IT security policies and training that's provided to council members. We encourage all of you to take that. There are no consequences for council for not taking cybersecurity training. And then the key cards are provided by HR. Those have been issued to new council members as well. We also just want to make sure that all council members have on their phones, they have downloaded IngoFix. That's available on both Android and iPhones. And so that is the fastest way to both direct citizens to where to, when they have come to you with a pothole, tell them, I'll be glad to turn that in to you. Did you know you can turn these in as well on the mobile app? City staff has time frames, which we have to get back to residents on, and members of this council have helped us to streamline and get some better SOPs around staff responses to those IngoFix requests. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa Davis, who will go over our media tips and policies. It is Chris Harga's wife's birthday, so he's taking her out to dinner tonight.
Hello, everyone. Oops, sorry. Hello, everyone. So the city has two types of media policies. We have the communications department as well as the Inglewood Police Department. Our goal with our media policy is to work cooperatively with the media and to be as accurate in a timely manner with the information that we are allowed to share. If you are interacting with the media and you would like to do it more on a personal behalf versus as your role in a city council position, make sure you are saying that beforehand. If you write a letter to the editor or something such, make sure you are not using City of Inglewood stationery or letterhead if you are expressing personal opinions. When talking with the media, it really helps if you create a talking point or a fact sheet that you can reference and then also share with the reporter after your interview. It's also good to do a little practice session to just kind of work out any nervous kinks that might be happening. Also, off the record just doesn't really exist anymore. Always believe when you are talking with a reporter, they might state anything that you say. So it's better just to be safe than sorry. And as Jim mentioned, no comment is just not the best thing, but another way to say is, I just don't have the information on that. Or just kind of parlay the question off. No comment makes it sound like, honestly, even I'm not authorized to speak on this subject also feels a little like you're just trying to, it makes it seem like you're hiding something when you're most likely not. Yeah, I can get back. That's a great one, Sean. So in our media relations policy for employees, all employees, if they're reached out by the media, must contact the communications department. For council members, that is not the same. We do kind of like if you do, but that is up to you. That is not a policy. And again, when responding to media, it is good to try to be as timely as possible. That kind of helps. Even if you can't give them all the information, just even reaching out to them to say, hey, I saw your message, something like that, to make it feel like they're not just like hanging. And again, if you are not a subject matter expert, again, we are here as your resource. Please come to us. We are happy to help. We are happy to give you information in what we can do and give you maybe a subject, maybe a director or someone who can help speak on that as well. For social media, we are on social media because it is a great way to interact with our citizens. It's a two-way form of communication, and it's really quick to get information out if there's an emergency. We also use it to promote our events as well. We are currently on almost all of the major social media platforms. Another reason we are on social media, it's a good method and a way to kind of combat some of the misinformation that does go on. If you see something, you can say something to combat the misinformation. One thing to note is the city cannot see private Nextdoor. So when we post something on Nextdoor, we can only see the responses under our post. We actually can't see any of the private citizens' parts of Nextdoor. So if you're like, oh, I saw this on Nextdoor, we probably can't see it. There is many pitfalls when interacting on social media, and this comes from both a personal and professional backgrounds. If you are interacting in the public forum in your professional sense as a council member, it's good to keep it light and positive. Try not to get in fights. It can be very easy to get emotions get going, but try not to. Take a step back, take a little breath, because the internet is forever. One thing to note, to disconnect from negativity, unfriend or block people, that is only on your personal accounts. If you do have a public account, say Councilmember Davis, if that was mine, I am not allowed to block people. It is governed by the First Amendment. That is something that has come up in the courts, and it's pretty much been said you are not allowed to block constituents. So that's just something to note on your public ones, not your private. So this is just an example. This was a communications director. She had very few followers on Twitter. She tweeted out something. It was a little racist, and she got on a plane, and by the time it was all over the news and she was fired. So again, words last forever on the internet, especially social media, and it can start like a wildfire. And that's the end of that.
Actually, does anybody have any questions? Because media can be, and we'll go ahead and switch the next one out if we can, because media relations can be a little bit tricky. As Vanessa said, it's not a requirement that council contacts the communications department when there is a question, when they receive a question. But I would say our media is really good about sending written questions, and they'll usually email those. And so, just forwarding that to myself and the communications director, Chris Hargath, is a great way, and doing that to both of us is a great way to get a quick response to get you the information you need to answer a question of a reporter. But for the information that was provided, are there any questions? It's that easy, huh? All right. Well, we are going to take a quick stretch break. You did have a second break, but so this one's going to be a very short one instead of the long one that we took before, and then we'll finish up with our departmental report. So we'll have that pulled up in just, let's say, 2 minutes. Departments have gotten to speak already. One is the city attorney. No, Peter, not you. That would get us on schedule immediately if we cut you. The city attorney's office, the city clerk's office, and the city manager's office have already told you some of our roles, so we're going to skip those and hit the other ones to make sure they have enough time. But if you have any questions, there is information in your packet from those three departments about accomplishments and what our goals are for next year. The city attorney's office also provides that to you in a year-end report as well. But our first department up is communications.
I'm back. So the mission of the communications department is truly centralizing all of our different communications from employees and the community. It's maintaining and creating community engagement that really helps us learn more about our residents and maintain a healthy, trustworthy relationship with them. Our organization chart, we have our director of communications. We also have our different subdivisions, as you can read, and we are in the process of hiring a graphic designer and content creator, which will bring the Inglewood magazine in-house and actually save the city a little money. What we do, from print and digital media to video and our website, the communications department really touches almost everything in the city. We help all the different departments in different ways, from presentations to graphics to wordsmithing. Our primary communications channels, we use traditional media such as Inglewood Magazine, direct mail, and door hangers, as well as digital media as Inglewood Engage, social media, videos, and more. Video is king. It's something we really focus on at the city. We do a variety of short form video as well as more long format, more traditional videos. And this is really just to hit our different demographics in the city and ensuring we are engaging with our new, younger residents as well as our long-standing residents as well. Oh, bummer. Well, there was our trivia question. The slide did not work, but anyways, what? We have a lot, our videos do very well, and it's really exciting when they do well to see just the engagement of the community and see how many people reminisce and share stories underneath them as well. So Inglewood Engaged is our community engagement platform. We have 39 active projects currently on there. A lot of them are public works, but it's a great way for residents to get up-to-date information on construction projects or different things happening within the city. These are not supposed to be stagnant. They are updated quite frequently, And residents can even sign up to receive emails. So every time that a project that they're interested in updates, they'll get an email blast about that. And our utility survey, we had almost 1,000 residents fill out that on Inglewood Engaged this year. Some of our accomplishments is we expanded the Eat, Enjoy, Explore campaign. It really highlights our small business community. We've launched the wayfinding and placemaking. We're just on the verge of installing some of the signs. Oh, I skipped a slide. No, a slide skipped. Sorry, they're out of order, my bad. But yeah, so we also neighborhood signs. We've installed our first one and we're on the way to install more in the coming year. Also, we have, oh, I have this one. Uniquely Inglewood, if you follow us on social media, this was a brainchild of some of our council members to really brand the city and kind of take some of the negativity and shine a spotlight on the positive happenings in the city of Inglewood. Sometimes it's just mundane things as we replaced a slide in the parks, but those are accomplishments. Those are things we're doing for our citizens, and we really want to highlight those positive bits. This is our goals for 2024. It's to really execute and elevate the Neighborhood Resources Program. We have a new strategic plan coming. We are, as mentioned, bringing the Inglewood Magazine in-house, and we will do 4 issues as we currently do. We also work to improve our site, as always, to make sure there's not broken links and have that really high user experience that we want our residents to engage with. And continuing our wayfinding and placemaking program by installing the primary and secondary gateways and more entry points in the city. Our neighborhood improvement program, it continues to just grow and grow year after year. We have seen increase in all of our programs, from our neighborhood grant to our Snow Buddies program. We matched 38 pairs last year, which was a record number from us. So it's very exciting and we love that. And we're really looking to engage some of the neighborhoods that haven't maybe been super engaged with the city. We want to make them feel like they're a part of the city, to take advantage of all the amazing resources that we have. And we want to see how we can serve them better as well. Oh, that's it. What? Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there any questions? Yeah, yes. Kim.
What is the Get to Know Your Neighbor program?
Yes, so the Get to Know Your Neighbor grant is residents can request a $100, $200, or $300 grant. This can be for any kind of neighborhood thing, and it can't just be for like you throwing a party. Really, you have to engage your whole block. So we can help with door hangers. We've helped send e-newsletters out. People have rented our block party trailer. It is a $100 refundable fee to come out for these block parties. People have had a crawfish broil. It's just a really great way to meet neighbors, because it's something that's been shown when you know your neighbors, you just feel more connected to your community.
So is the Get to Know Your Neighbor and the block party, those are 2 separate things, correct?
Yes, but you can use Get to Know Your Neighbor grant funds to place the non-refundable or the refundable, yes, $100 for the block party trailer.
So you could combine the 2.
Yes, but the block party trailer, it is refundable.
Okay, perfect. Nice. Thank you.
Any other questions? Up next is Brad Power.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brad Power. I'm the Director of Community Development. So in terms of the key responsibilities of the department that's outlined by the city charter, they really focus on the implementation of the codes and ordinances related to the physical environment in the city of Englewood. And also the department is responsible for the implementation of the Englewood Comprehensive Plan, which is intended to be a 15 to 20-year look over the horizon for the future development of the city. There's also some very specific references to how we interact with some of the boards and commissions that is located in the charter as well. The way I characterize what we do when I had to say it in 10 seconds or less to somebody is we facilitate and regulate the pace of development, the physical development of Englewood, according to the city's policies and codes. And that's what we do day in and day out. Our organizational chart, there are 17 professionals that work within the department. And at this point, we have a first in my tenure, which we have 2 vacancies simultaneously. We tend to not have vacancies at all. I'm very proud of that. I think we have a great group of people who are very dedicated to their work. But I can say that those boxes won't be vacant for long. We've actually had a offer extended to a building inspector. Those are very highly coveted positions in cities right now. So we have a very well-qualified inspector candidate to hopefully join us in the next couple of weeks. And we're doing interviews this week for a planner position with our planning staff. In terms of division overviews, I'll just highlight, I won't go through all of these, I'll just highlight a couple of them. The planning department or planning division is responsible for implementing all of the land use codes relative to new projects, and that's through the implementation of the project was called Code Next. Now it is our new Title 16, also known as the Unified Development Code, which is, all of you are aware that that's the first time in 20 years the city has completed a comprehensive update of our development code. There are other things in terms of regional partnerships, that type of thing. I mentioned the comprehensive plan implementation as well. We also staff 3 boards and commissions through the planning division, you can see there. In terms of economic development, one of the things that we do in economic development is we concentrate on really 2 areas. One is our grants program for businesses that are expanding in Englewood and businesses that are coming and opening in Englewood. We're very proud of those efforts to get businesses the best chance of succeeding. We also have a lot of business training programs that we partner with. You can see we have 12 regional partners. Our primary partners are the local Chamber of Commerce and the Aurora South Metro Small Business Development Center. But we also utilize the services of the other 10 partners as well to do a lot of programs. We're concluding our final program actually next week, which is a job fair for the workers that are going to be displaced from the Uray Sportswear company that you may have read about that is actually closing their location in Englewood. We are sponsoring a job fair in association with that company next week, and that'll be our last event for the year. We're very proud of those 2 awards that you can see there in the picture that we've won consecutively for both our COVID response and our economic development strategic plan. Redevelopment, as you all are very familiar with, Englewood is completely built out. We have virtually no vacant land, so everything that's built tends to be something that is replacing something that was there before. And we have a redevelopment function that is obviously concentrating on City Center right now, but we also coordinate with the DDA. And we also have the Urban Renewal Authority, which is not acting on implementing a project at the moment, but they're still in place, and I serve as their executive director. Building department, as you would imply the name, they ensure that all new construction, either ground up or renovations, comply with our codes, and they're inspected according to our codes, and that really derives from the International Building Code. Englewood adopts its own individual code, but it really derives from that larger document that most cities have. We also complete plan reviews. Our inspectors are in the field every day, inspecting a variety of work that's going on. And we also do contractor licensing for all the contractors who want to do business in Englewood. Finally, in terms of division, we have 2 home improvement programs. One is federally funded. We have community development block grant funds that go to our Energy Efficiency Englewood, which is for income qualified homeowners to do energy program or energy improvements. So new windows, water heaters, furnaces, those types of things that are more efficient. We also have the Home Repair and Improvement Program, which again is income qualified for folks to create the ability to stay in their homes, and we keep that housing stock intact through that new reinvestment. And that can be fixing sidewalks, that can be fixing roofs, those types of things that, that people could get help with. So we have those two programs as well. In terms of a couple of achievements in each division, planning, I think you can all appreciate the major accomplishment this year was the adoption of the new development code. So we're looking forward to the implementation of that. The other thing that I'll just highlight was we secured a $900,000 grant from RTD to support the Englewood Trolley at $300,000 per year for the next 3 years. So we're looking forward to looking at improvements to the trolley program. Economic development, we are implementing our economic development strategic plan. We're kind of on the cusp from transitioning from the short term to the medium term goals. So we're looking forward to doing that next year. We'll of course continue our grant and training programs. Redevelopment, it's a large part of that is about working through the very difficult challenges associated with getting City Center in position to be redeveloped. So you'll be hearing from us hopefully within the next month or so about an update where things stand there, and hopefully we can go forward and make some progress on that in 2024. And the building division had the major achievement of updating the international building codes for the 2021 cycle. You saw that earlier this year, so we're very appreciative of council support for that new cycle of the building codes, which again happens usually every 2 to 3 years. Our theme for next year is kind of aiming for the future on a lot of things as it relates to our new code. Obviously, it's going to be focusing on implementation. So we're doing that in the planning area. As I mentioned, the trolley and our economic development strategic plan. I'll help facilitate some of the staff participation in the Affordable Housing Task Force. So I'm looking forward to working with that group in association with the City Manager's Office. There's a couple of major national conferences that are happening in 2025. The American Planning Association and the Urban Land Institute are both coming to Denver in 2025. And I'd like our staff to be part of that by hosting mobile workshops to Englewood for both of those organizations. Those will be several thousand people that will be attending each of those conferences. It's on the previous page, but one of the things that our staff is going to be doing is starting to think about an update to the Englewood Forward Comprehensive Plan. So in 2024, we'll start to scope that as a staff, and then we'll bring a proposal to you in 2025 for the actual update. I think I may have mentioned this in previous meetings. Our intention is to do that internally. That would be a staff level or staff-driven project in cooperation with you, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and of course, the community. I think I can wrap with that. If there are no questions, or are there any questions, then I'll ask you my trivia question. All right, trivia question time. Through October 31st, how many building inspections have been conducted this year in Englewood? How many? What is this, The Price is Right? Oh, now that's the winner. 7,248. So you're a little bit over, but that's a very good guess. For most of the year, that's been 2. I will violate the media policy and say no comment. We did contract at times for our third party, but mostly that has been largely in-house. Lots of construction going on. Thank you for your time this evening. I wish you all the very best.
Good evening. I'm Kenitha Julian, the Court Administrator for the Municipal Court. And our mission at the Municipal Court is to ensure efficient, fair, and effective justice with dignity for all. As you can see, we are a small but mighty team, handling on average of 2,000 cases per year over the last 3 years. And we are established by charter and ordinance. In 1959, Englewood established an elected judge. It was clear that the Englewood forefathers were thinking about the separation of powers to make sure there was the independence of the court. The charter actually outlines independence of oversight and management of the court by the judge. And we're fortunate to have a local court here in the Englewood community. It is close. It allows citizens, I'm very loud. It allows for our citizens to resolve their cases locally and not have to go all the way out to the east side of Centennial. And we have people come in often and say, oh, my case isn't here. And we go, no, it's at the county court. And they get very frustrated because they're like, well, why not? It's right here. It's in my backyard. So we're very fortunate to be able to serve that for them. Our cases have a speedy trial time of 91 days, which allows for an efficient processing of cases. Our judge and staff are familiar with the Englewood community, which helps us to assist them and help them resolve their cases efficiently and effectively. Again, more on the charter and ordinance. Our court handles and sanctions through sentencing. We handle a wide array of cases. Sorry, my tongue wasn't working there for a second. We have criminal cases, which includes theft, assault, crimes against persons, and other types of criminal cases. We have domestic violence, traffic infractions, traffic offenses, and parking cases. The court sets fines and penalties and fees and costs for cases handled before the Violation Bureau, which includes the traffic infractions and parking cases. We are responsible for court records. We have an audio and video recordings that we make available by request, and that we also, under new legislation, will be working towards having our court processes streamed to the public. We are looking for, at the moment, our most inexpensive way of doing that is through YouTube, and so we're working with our court technology in order to be able to do that. It's very streamlined. And our court is empowered to mandate restitution for victim of cases, which includes actual damages, which what that does, again, as a community court, it allows us to provide for the victims of our local community and make sure that they're getting returned as best possible to where they were before their incident occurred. Our major achievements have been our restorative justice program accepted its 100th case in the last couple months. We relaunched our online payment portal, finally. Thank you, with the help of our IT department, really stayed on them. So we will be, we had waited, that went into effect November 1st, and we waited to make sure that we had some of the issues that we had in the past that caused us to take it down, to make sure that we did not, that we had corrected those issues and that we were on track to be successful, and we are. So we will be working with communications in order to get that published out to the local community so that they know that they can make their payments on the payment portal online, which will be much more efficient and effective. We appropriately and effectively implemented new legislation, our local ordinances and impact, and also state legislation. We also were able, with our updates of eCourt, to remove the OJW mandates and fees from our electronic system. And then goals for 2024 is to continue to successfully implement our new case management system, including the payment portals, and then also case searches so that people will be able to search that and find out if they have cases or warrants. Also, to successfully interface our new case management system with the Tyler New World financial program that will eliminate a lot of duplicative work by both the financial department and our department. Also, successfully implement legislation to streamline the court proceedings, as I had indicated previously. Successfully implement a text reminder program with city accessible resources. So again, hopefully eliminating or diminishing cost in that by utilizing systems that we already have in place here at the city. And actually give a state court presentation was an achievement, of which we had over 53 attendees for the judge for that project. So any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I was at code enforcement.
Yes, ma'am.
And we were discussing that a lot of things that would have been heard by the judge is now by a hearing officer. Was that something that was implemented by the courts, or is that something answer to how that is handled now?
I'd have to get more information in reference to exactly, or you could ask Ms. Niles in reference to that. I believe you're referring to administrative processes, and so that's handled by the city attorney's office.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much, and welcome aboard.
Alrighty, the Finance Department. We've provided our vision, mission, and value statements here for you. I did touch briefly on some of the responsibilities that are outlined in charter and ordinance for the budget portion that the Finance Department oversees. And then as I touch on the various divisions, I'll talk about some of the other responsibilities as well. The Finance Department, we have 4 divisions: our Revenue, Tax, Audit, and Licensing Division, Administration and Budget, Accounting and Finance, and Procurement. And we are about 18.75 FTEs. We do currently have 1 vacant finance coordinator position that we've advertised one time. We are looking at restructuring that position and then reposting here shortly, and hope to be fully staffed here shortly. The Budget Administration Division, we basically oversee the day-to-day operations of the Finance Department. We serve as the financial advisor for inquiries regarding City Council, or inquiries from, City Council citizens, and review citywide financial-related agenda items for City Council meetings. We also coordinate with the City Manager's Office and the leadership team in developing a sustainable and transparent operational and capital budget. Finance and Accounting Division, we establish and assure adherence to the city's accounting and financial policies and procedures, and make sure that they're in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, also known as GAAP. We also are responsible for overseeing the comprehensive annual financial report, and in conjunction with that, our annual audit with an independent audit firm each year. The Revenue and Tax Division is basically responsible for managing the city's tax and licensing function as outlined under Titles 4 and 5 of the Englewood Municipal Code. And Procurement, we enforce the city's procurement and policy, procurement and purchasing card policies, ensure the purchasing for supplies, materials, equipment, and contractual services required by the city are procured via city policies and with required documentation and approvals. We have 2 pages of major accomplishments. One is out of sequence, but we were recipients of the Government Financial Officers Association for financial reporting, as well as our Distinguished Budget Award. The financial reporting was for 2021. We have applied for our 2022 award, have not heard back on that yet. And we did receive the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 2023. And then our other accomplishments, wanted just to mention to you, we did last year compare our city's rates and fee structure with surrounding jurisdictions. And we were able to provide that information to the leadership team back in May, as well as the Budget Review Committee. And it's a document that department directors can review annually. There are links to other jurisdictions that will make their research a little bit easier for them in determining whether or not our fees and rate schedules or fees and rates are comparable to our surrounding jurisdictions. We have partnered with the state and other home rule cities and outside consultants to identify and execute strategies for increased sales and use taxes from local, outside, and interstate, or excuse me, internet sales. And then our goals are are tied to our finance department. We have our own strategic outcomes that are also linked to our city's overall strategic goals or outcomes. And those are provided parenthetically. I can't see. There we go. Sorry. And then our outcomes have objectives that help further define our strategic outcomes, as well as provide purpose for our strategic outcomes. So the first outcome that the finance department has is to ensure city financial fiduciary responsibility. And the goals that we have set for 2024 is to provide a pilot project to utilize temporary and seasonal services to assist staff with Title IV biennial sales and use tax licensing, documentation and implementation of the construction use tax, also known as the building use tax process related to city projects, to ensure consistent adherence to the construction use tax requirement. Our second outcome is to foster financial stewardship by creating transparent and sustainable operating budgets. And our goals for 2024 include complete the 2023. Did I go backwards? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Is to complete our annual comprehensive financial audit with minimal to no findings by May. Prepare and present the 2023 annual comprehensive financial report to City Council by June of 2024, and to prepare and present the City Council the draft proposed 2025 operating and capital budgets by August of 2024. The third outcome for the department is to optimize and diversify revenue sources through fees and taxes. And our goal is to review the fees and rates with departments annually by August of 2024 and present rates and fees updates, resolutions by no later than November of 2024. The fourth outcome is to implement strategic procurement with departments by seeking economies of scale and contract negotiation. And we'll do that in 2024 by implementing a strategic sourcing platform by June of 2024, and work with City Clerk's office to provide a centralized repository for executed contracts by December of 2024. And last but not least is our fifth strategic outcome, and that's to define, review, and prioritize long-term citywide capital improvement plan, including financing alternatives. And the goals for 2024 are to work with the city manager's office and departments to implement the revised capital improvement plan process schedule and use the prioritization tool by the first quarter of 2024, and provide the leadership team a draft capital improvement plan policy document for their review and comment by October of 2024. So I'll answer any questions you might have. All right.
Hey, welcome back from the break. So I am obviously not the HR director, but our HR director, Sean Weisky, is unavailable this evening due to an illness. So I'll be presenting the HR department presentation for him. I'm just going to pause on the mission statement for 10 seconds for you to review it for yourself. So you can see there's several things there at the end of the vision statement, the mission statement, excuse me, that I'll be going over. But the HR department really is about people. In a lot of cities and a lot of places, the HR director's title is Chief People Officer. So that's really what it's all about. And it really touches people at every stage of the employee life cycle, from the day they apply for a job until the day they leave the organization or retire. So there are many key responsibilities. I'm going to sum them up into a few buckets. Number one is laws and regulations. So it's enforcing the laws and regulations of the United States related to employment laws and policies, as well as the state of Colorado, as well as individual laws and policies that we have here in Inglewood. It also focuses on benefits. Employee benefits is an area that we've really tried to improve in the last couple of years, and it's a major role of this department. Another one is train and development, organizational development. This is also one thanks to support from council. We've been able to develop a training program over the last couple of years, and I'll talk a little bit about that during successes. It also deals with labor relations. So as you may know, Colorado has, I think, about 270 cities and towns, and last that I'm aware of, unless it's changed, 15 of them have organized labor unions working in their workforces. We are one of those 15. We have two unions in our workforce, and so labor relations and working with those organizations, as well as in enforcing and managing the bargaining agreements, is a key part of what this department does. It also manages what we call employee relations issues. These are issues that may arise in departments throughout the year. They happen in every organization, so it's a key part of what HR departments do. And then, of course, recruitment. In the next couple of years, we really want to continue to move the department more in terms of being a strategic partner of other departments, as opposed to being transactional. This is the current organizational structure of the department. There are two things I want to point out here. One is that thanks to your support as part of the budget process, we are going to be making a change going into early 2024, in that we're going to be creating an HR management position. It will not be a brand new FTE. It'll be a repurpose of one of the existing business partners. So it will not be a brand new position. It will be repurposing it. And that will provide Director Weisky with more capacity to manage the team. As you see here, every single person in the department reports directly to him. The other thing I want to point out is in the last 15 or 20 years or so, HR departments moved to kind of a bifurcated model of two areas. One is called Centers of Excellence, and one is called the Business Partner Model. The Business Partner Model essentially has HR professionals that are usually embedded in departments that really get to know the business needs and the nature of the different departments, while supporting them with things like recruitment and employee retention, performance management, and organizational development. And the Centers of Excellence are more kind of specific buckets, things like benefits or classification and compensation, sometimes recruitment, and then HRIS, which is Human Resources Information Systems. Because of the size of our department, a couple of years ago, it was bifurcated along those lines. We've taken a little bit more of a hybrid approach, where we have some business partners who also manage Centers of Excellence depending on the area. But then we do have some dedicated professionals, such as our benefits individual, who specializes specifically and wholly in benefits. So it is a model that we've worked to kind of improve and manage for a city our size. Some major accomplishments this year. So the first one has to do with HRIS. As you can imagine, there's a lot of data that's generated among every employee. Just the amount of data that's generated when we have an employee start, when they leave, if they go into a retirement system. And so we've made several improvements with how we manage that data over the year. Our HR Director Weisky also manages our internal policy committee. So we've made several updates to, which I believe was part of the packet that you received at the onboarding. He manages a committee that we have that includes individuals from different departments that oversee these policies. Ultimately, they're approved by the city manager with his authority as the administrative officer of the organization, but the process effectively is that an idea is developed, it goes to the policy committee, and then it goes to the leadership team for approval before it goes to the city manager. We also finally launched our training program. So we have a Lunch and Learn program, which is kind of an unofficial program that happens usually once a month in this room for our employees to get ideas of different programs and initiatives. But then we also created a supervisory academy where we had, I think, about 25 or so employees participate, and it was very well received. We're hoping over the next year to expand our training program and to develop more of a catalog of enrichment programs. However, we also are continuing to work on compliance trainings, things involving things like risk management, as well as cybersecurity. We also, what you heard a little bit about last week as part of the budget supplemental presentation number 4, we're implementing a classification and compensation program. Again, thank you to support of council for funding for that initiative. Tomorrow is when individual employees will find out more information about how that's going to impact them. We also, and I wish this was a trivia question, we've recruited and hired 250 employees. When you think about, okay, well, we have 700, that's a huge amount of turnover. A lot of those are seasonal employees that we recruit for almost on an annual basis. So things like lifeguards at the water park, and people that manage our summer camps and programs like that. And the HR department, what a major accomplishment for the first time in several years, definitely since I've been here, and I think going back a year or two before that, the HR department has remained fully staffed for several months and almost for a full year. So a few goals for the year that HR Director Weisky has are number 1, to, as I mentioned, hire an HR manager to provide more capacity, to continue to develop the supervisory program, continue to implement our diversity, equity, and inclusion program, to implement performance metrics. Director Weisky has a background in utilizing performance metrics to track things like turnover rates in departments, to utilize data to better understand where pain points are and where improvements need to be made. So that's something we hope to improve and to do this year. We also hope to establish a pay-for-performance program. The EDT I mentioned previously, that's the employee development tool. And then both of our bargaining agreements are coming up in 2024, so that'll be a large part of his responsibilities and of the department responsibilities going into next year. Any questions? All right, thanks. Turn it over to Director Eisenbart.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joe Eisenbart. I'm the Director of Information Technology. The primary responsibility, I'll go into the mission. Our mission is to empower users through collaboration and the use of innovative solutions. Our responsibilities are to maintain the software and hardware systems within the organization. This includes implementing and configuring new business applications, new hardware, software, and the systems within the city. Some of the key responsibilities here, we do about 4,100 support requests a year, managing 150 terabytes of data storage, 480 mobile devices, 50 plus business applications, and on. So we do implementations for new business applications. We also assist with network installs and managing the security and overall performance of the network and systems. Our org chart is as displayed here. We have 16 professionals in our department. They are spread across 3 divisions. That includes the operations division, data and analytics, and the business services division. Our operations division is basically the lights on sort of people. They take care of the network, the servers, databases, things of that nature, make sure that everything's running optimally, and handle any trouble tickets that might come along as we move forward. Another thing that they do is the implementation of new equipment, computers, things of that nature. The business services division handles our business applications, so we partner with our various departments to understand their business needs and to come up with technology solutions that will support those needs in terms of efficiency and added services to our citizens. Data and analytics manager, they're technically under the IT department, but they operate as a city manager function, so they report directly to the deputy city manager to better support their needs. They create interactive maps and other data-driven tools that help us in our decision-making throughout the city. Some of the key accomplishments that we've had this year include the upgraded storage area network to improve overall system performance and stability. We upgraded the camera storage system for better analytics and added additional cameras at the Inglewood Recreation Center. Redesigned the GIS hub site to provide a single source for data and analytics resources. This was a big one to centralize that information that the data and analytics teams has put together so that it's easy for everyone to access. I'm not going to go through everything there, but you're free to look at that on your own time. Business Services Division, some of the key accomplishments there is the UKG 3P project. This was an effort to improve the HRIS system to make it more functional, more efficient, and to allow our HR users to be more to have more time to tend to other things instead of spending so much time dealing with the various processes within that HR system. We completed the eCourt portal to enable citizens to get online to address a lot of their court cases and that sort of thing to make things more efficient for them and our court staff. And then we've implemented various other systems in the city to improve efficiencies with all departments. Some of our key goals in the next year, we need to complete a domain migration. This will, again, improve the performance and stability of our system and to bring it into compliance with best practices. We need to implement a new physical access control system across all city facilities for physical security, and implement a new soft phone system to improve efficiency and portability through for users in the organization. One of the major projects that we have going on right now is technology planning. We're building a technology plan to ensure that our resources are aligned to support the city's strategic plan and departmental plans to improve support for our city departments and for our citizens. Any questions? I do have a trivia question. How many emails go through our email system in a month? In a month.
Yes. 8,000. Oh, you said.
I'm sorry? We're at 460,000 per month. And sometimes I feel like they're mostly coming to my inbox. With that, I will turn it over to.
All right. I'm Christine Underhill. I'm the Director for Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. Our number one goal is bringing people together to play, learn, and live well. So just increasing the quality of life of our residents as well as our visitors. I won't read this all, but ultimately, we're utilizing our parks, our recreation facilities to offer programs and services in those facilities for our residents as well as our visitors, and that also includes our golf course and library. This is a large org chart, but we have one deputy director overseeing our parks and recreation divisions. We have 5 managers overseeing the golf course, parks, aquatics, recreation, as well as the library. 29 full-time staff over the 4 divisions. It also includes 300 part-time staff, and that may include sports officials, lifeguards, swim instructors, golf and park maintenance workers, as well as library associates, just to name a few. And during the summer months, May through October, we increased another 175 staff, primarily our lifeguards for Pirates Cove, but that also includes for our parks and our golf course as well. So just overviews real quick. Parks, we have 250 acres. We have athletic fields. We also oversee Bellevue Farm and Train in that division. River Run Trailhead, which is a really cool amenity near the golf course, as well as they help with all our outdoor special events, including neighborhood nights and many others. Recreation oversees the Inglewood Recreation Center, as well as the Maui Recreation Center, Pirates Cove Water Park. We put on a lot of classes and programs and special events throughout the year. The library, this is great. We have over 400 million items, not necessarily in the library, but also digital, which is great for our residents. Our children's library program is one of the best in the Front Range. It just won a great award, Miss Kimberly, with her Hero Award that was just awarded last week. We have a great storytime and summer reading program. I have to say, summer reading, check it out every year. We have some of the best prizes and the biggest turnout for summer reading annually. There's a tech lab, as well as they do a lot of special events. Broken T, we have an 18-hole championship course, a 9-hole course, driving range, practice range. Also, Wyatt's is our newest restaurant at the golf course. Definitely a place to check out. In fact, I think our council retreat is happening there in January. So some major achievements. We did 4 park renovations this last year. We got a grant for Bates Logan, which will allow us to install all accessible playground, which we're very excited about. That'll go in. Actually, it's going out to bid tomorrow. We expanded our child care programs. We're renovating our recreation center. The one that we're really proud of is over 1,700 kids participated in Learn to Swim classes at the Inglewood Recreation Center, as well as Pirates Cove. Library hosted their first book sale here in this room and raised some money for next year's summer reading program. Lots of junior programs were offered in all divisions, but especially in golf. We have a great relationship with the high school now. We had over 20 special events, brought in $80,000 in sponsorships, as well as we did a lot of preparation for the Parks and Rec bonds that may happen this next year. We'll bring to a study session early next year. Some of the goals is continuing to plan for a potential bond next year. Emerald Ash Borer is here in our city, and so we have treated all of the trees in Inglewood, all the ash trees, as well as we have grant programs for our residents to apply for to help with that cost to their ash trees at home. We also got a grant this last year for $600,000 for Bates Logan. We're going to try for another one to finish phase 3 and be done with that park, hopefully in 2025. And the big one is the ADA accessible train. It's all electric going in, hopefully in May of next year. It's in production right now. And then from our recreation side, we do a lot of cultural programming. We get grants for that. We have a ton of events and programs we offer for all ages, abilities that help build pride in Inglewood, and hopefully our residents know about them. So please spread the word. We have a lot of great things. The Citizen magazine showcases a lot of those programs every quarter. So the goal is no drownings or catastrophic incidents at the Pirates Cove or Recreation Center. We did great this year. Nothing happened. Good lifeguards. We trained them well. A lot of outreach programs to educate our Inglewood kids about swimming and the dangers of water, and hopefully they'll get involved and learn how to swim. We're working on a master plan for the golf course, not only from the financial side of things, but also the course itself to make some improvements. our goal for the library is to increase the number of library card holders in our city. Less than 25% of our residents actually have an Inglewood library card. So we'd like to increase that by doing some outreach. Also, we have a lot of great online resources for our residents that could take advantage that are free through the library programs. So before we go to the police department with the Chief Sam Watson, to answer your question about library fines. So there's been a lot of studies out there. We are one of 2 libraries left in Inglewood to remove library fines for materials. Left in Colorado. We only have 1 library here. And so there's a lot of studies out there. Just from an equity standpoint, it's found that those who check out books from the library that have fines tend to not bring them back, or they just stop using the library altogether because they can't afford to pay off the fines. It was also found that, you do canned drives, food drives during the holidays, people can waive those fines. Libraries have done that in the past, but unfortunately those that may not have those resources can't pay their fines either, and so they don't participate. So ultimately, research has shown that no matter the size and budget of the library, in most cases, it's only 1% of the library budget that's actually brought back. In 2022, I think we only brought in like $1,300 total. In 2021, it was like $800. And so ultimately, it actually costs us more in staff time and resources to retrieve those fines back. And so we will still charge for materials lost if we're able to track those people down, like Sean said. So do you have any other questions around that? No, okay. So a trivia question is, what is Bellevue Park also known as? Yeah, very good. So that airplane is actually a Mace missile. It's not an airplane. It was donated in the 60s by Lockheed Martin, so. And just donate it, yeah. Or we bought it for $1 or something very cheap. But just to plug, this Saturday we have our tree lighting out here in the circle. The tree's gonna be lit at 5:30, so inviting you all to that. And then Holiday Express kicks off next Friday and Saturday, and the following Saturday and Friday and Saturday. So come on out to that if you wanna check out a nice holiday event. Thank you.
Good evening, Sam Watson, Chief of Police. I have Deputy Chief Vance Fender in the back too, so any specific questions Vance might help me out with. Really quick overview here. You've got this in your packet. The key responsibilities, mission, and vision. The organizational chart for the PD is quite complicated. We'll get into the 3 different divisions within the police department here in just a minute. Again, I'll highlight the 3 division chiefs that are over each division, and then the operational control of those, again, is by Deputy Chief Vance Fender. The patrol division, I have to stand over here so I can read this better, is the largest division within the police department, and it includes a variety of different work groups. Of note, over 51,000 calls for service per year, which equates to 140 calls for service a day on average. Patrol also includes traffic enforcement, zone policing. The zone police officers are assigned to a smaller geographic area that might be experiencing a specific situation. So it's a focused hotspot policing. Our SRO works out of patrol as well. Special Operations and Codes Division includes the Detective Bureau, our Impact Team, the Fire Marshal's Office and Code Enforcement Office, which is unique for a police department in some cases to have those rolled in there, but we're happy to have them. There's a lot of similar goals and activities, as well as Property and Evidence. Support Services includes 911 communications, our dispatch center, if you will, our Records Bureau, Professional Standards Bureau. That's a small and mighty group that does our recruiting and hiring and testing and internal affairs and PIO, media relations functions. So small but mighty. And then our community relations crime prevention program some accomplishments for 2023 of note. The top two, the Colorado Association Chiefs of Police reaccreditation. So it's a 5-year accreditation. We were accredited previous to that, so we had to go through the process of reaccreditation, which we did recently. So we're very proud of that. And then as well as the IACP, which is the International Association Chiefs of Police One Mind campaign. We're one of the few agencies in the country to have this, and it's a enhanced services for people that are in mental health crisis. So it follows our crisis intervention team, or CIT, training for officers as well. Other accomplishments include the co-responder program. We've upped that to 80 hours per week of co-responder time, which is managed through All Health Network, our partnership with them, as well as 40 hours per week of case management. Some quick crime trends, down in most areas for 2022, and the preliminary data for 2023 is that downward trend is continuing. Although the final stats for that won't be in until after the first of the year. So we'll include that in our community safety report, which is online. Many of you have seen that, and has much more detailed information on crime stats and comparisons with other cities, and that's online. Serves as, if you will, like an annual report for the police department in a slide form, PowerPoint form. So that's on the city website police page. Some key priorities for the coming up. So the first bullet speaks to efficiency. So looking at processes and programs and efficiencies within the police department to be as efficient as we can. Priority is equipment and professional development for the officers and not just the sworn officers, but the civilian professional group within the police department. Priority with technology, and our partnership with IT is outstanding. Priority for policing and staffing, employee engagement, and best practices in law enforcement. So we continue to monitor and look at and research that. And when we talk about best practices, that includes our alternative policing programs, which many of you are aware of. Our partnership with All Health Network for the co-responders and the mobile response unit, 911 call diversion, zone impact team, restorative justice, our partnership with the courts, and crime prevention and community relations programs. Some initiatives that we are continuing and working on right now and continuing next year is just a laser focus as much as we can on crime reduction and calls for service, and using all means necessary, whether it's a resource allocation through the staffing of the police department, or looking at opportunities for education, for engineering, for data, technology to address high crime areas, high calls for service area, high accident locations, and so on down the list. And it's a continuous project that we continuously monitor. So, any questions?
Hey, Chief. Can you tell me what crimes against society is? What type of crimes those are?
Yes, ma'am. Those include drug offenses, alcohol offenses, things like prostitution. It's actually a national category of tracking information, so we can compare it with other agencies. So, and again, those are reported. One of the unique characteristics of our department is we encourage people to call and report these types of activities so we can properly investigate them, and so that one is up, that crime stat number. It's a small number, but it is higher, but it's relatively small compared to like property crimes and persons crimes.
And then the 911 call diversion, what is that?
So that's a way of when we receive a call within the communication center for somebody that's in crisis, mental health crisis, and where there's nobody else that is affected by it. Somebody that's a good example would be suicidal. And so we want to make sure that we match them up with the best resource possible. Even though our officers have advanced training in that, sometimes there's better resources out there within the community. So they have to go through a whole checklist of questions before we would divert that call away from police, but into the hands of a mental health professional to better get that person that's in crisis the assistance that they need. Welcome. Well, if there's no other questions, I do have a trivia question for you guys. All right. So there are many divisions, programs, projects, and contracts within the police department budget. Which one of the following is not contained in the police department budget? It's not contained. Denver Fire Contract, Emergency Management Contract, Allied Security Contract, Fire Marshal Program, Code Enforcement Program. I made that I made that way too easy. I'll think of a better one for next year. But that segues right into Victor Rochelle with Public Works as the next presenter.
And as he's coming up, I'll just mention that Councilmember-elect Tina Prang has been online for a bit, and I apologize I didn't announce that sooner.
All right, well, good afternoon. Victor Rochelle, Director of Public Works. So not going to read all this to you, but our mission is to promote and ensure the high quality of life, economic vitality, unique, desirable community through the delivery of quality projects, programs, and services. So in summary, who we are, if it's in the public right-of-way or it's a city building, it's Public Works, including the Allied contract. Overview of the team. So Public Works is broken into two main groups. Operations and maintenance, which oversees fleet, traffic operations, facilities, including custodial, city architect, and facilities maintenance. And then our engineering group, which oversees capital projects, inspections, and our paving contracts. So getting into the nitty gritty on each of the teams inside that. So our engineering and capital projects, as I mentioned, they handle a lot of our grants, some of the asset management, concrete utility, and inspections in the public right-of-way. Traffic operations handles all of our traffic signals within the city limits, except those on state routes. Those belong to CDOT. We coordinate a lot with CDOT and share information, and when we get reports, we make sure that those get to the proper team to address. Traffic operations also oversees our signage and striping. They do sign surveys and safety mitigation surveys as well within the community. Stormwater, we oversee the stormwater maintenance, cleaning, televising, mapping of our stormwater infrastructure, our MS4 permit, water quality, and floodplain management. Our streets division, they oversee the street and alley maintenance, including street sweeping, crack sealing, snow and ice removal, and we do utility patch repair in coordination with our utilities department. Facilities, again, all things related to the buildings, whether that's elevators, HVAC, custodial, setting up rooms such as this room for the meeting tonight, key card access, making sure things are locked on appropriate holidays, and then our fleet division, which the fleet division is pretty unique. Based out of the service center, we maintain almost all city vehicles. We also have contracts with Sheridan and Cherry Hills Village to maintain some of their vehicles, which they pay us for. So we'll start by calling it EAF, the property formerly known as EAF, which has been recently dissolved. Now that resides as a public works task and responsibility and is being called the City Center Property Management, which is everything you see in yellow on the screen. Under that contract, we're responsible for snow and ice removal, landscaping, general maintenance of those areas. Properties pay into something called the CAM, the Common Area Maintenance, which is what we maintain. Several contracts were approved at the most recent council meeting, including landscaping and snow removal for that area. 2023 accomplishments. Again, not going to read all these to you, but we got some pretty big ones in here that have been a long time coming. Still in process, but we're happy to see them get going, including the Dartmouth Bridge widening. That's been outstanding for quite some time. Also paving. So we got an increase with the sales tax increase that was approved last November of approximately 1.9 to 2 million. We've used that to complete in Zone 5, Broadway, Dartmouth, west of Platte River, Floyd, and west of Broadway there. So a lot of paving going on, a lot of investment in our streets right now within the community. We've also used the millings from that project in over 50 alleys to help provide an all-weather durable surface to improve the condition of our alleys citywide. On the stormwater side, we have initiated the contract and will begin construction very soon on sites A and B, which again is a massive infrastructure investment for the city. We also had a fully staffed stormwater team for most of the year and just removed a tremendous amount of debris from our stormwater infrastructure, 139 cubic yards, including backing cleaning pipes that haven't been cleaned in decades, over close to 400 structures being cleaned there. For our operations and maintenance side, again, we had our standard maintenance, crack seal, things of that nature, updated our snow and ice policy in coordination with City Council for the 2023-2024 season. We installed some Halo devices in the bathrooms due to some incidences earlier this year, improved some lighting, and again, we refreshed landscaping in the City management area, formerly known as EAF. On the traffic operations side, we installed over 2,900 logos on street name signs citywide, coordinating again with our communications department, and conducted a large number of traffic studies and evaluations that were, came to us via the community around safety and needs for improvement. Goals for 2024. We'd like to wrap up Dartmouth Bridge. We'd also like to get going on the Oxford Ped Bridge, if that all comes together, as well as start on the Union Bridge and roadway. Those are all in the budget for 2024. Union is a badly needed piece of infrastructure that's got a really poor rating, bridge and roadway right now. Of course, the traffic on there with the trucks are not doing it any favors. From a program perspective, we'd like to make sure we continue our pavement maintenance as well as sidewalk repairs, continue our alley maintenance and evaluating how this year's millings did, and complete the storm drain system cleaning on the south side of the city. This year we completed north side. Our goal next year is everything south of 285, get that cleaned and mapped and into GIS. From a studies perspective, we're looking to wrap up the 285 congestion mitigation study. It's very close. Should be wrapping up here end of January, early February. And then also update and establish our facilities asset management system. And then complete an updated drainage master plan in coordination with Mile High Flood District. And with that, I will take any questions you guys have. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions. What did you say about the storm drainage? There were some structures that had not been cleared in decades.
We found a few inlets that appear like the inlet themselves had not been cleared. So water was not able to infiltrate into the pipe system. The inlets literally just had a bunch of muck and debris and trash. And best estimate from what we pulled out of there is it's probably been 5 plus maybe 10 years since that inlet was last cleaned.
Okay.
We found a number of those.
Okay, thank you. And then
Yes, ma'am.
the other question is about the Oxford pedestrian bridge.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought that was tied to the SAMS project. And so did we get funding even though we haven't moved forward with the SAMS project?
We do have some grant funding in place, but we are contingent upon Sam's Automotive moving forward. Sam's Automotive is to contribute to the project, assuming they move forward. If they do not move forward, we'll have to reevaluate that and see what options are available.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And these inlets that you cleared, excuse me, was that all north of 285?
They were throughout the city. The ones that come to mind, there were 1 or 2 that were on Broadway just north of 285 that were substantially clogged and water was not getting through them at all.
Okay. And then on here, I didn't see the goals. What about the retention pond?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that-
So we have that here, third bullet down. So it's sites A and B. So that is the South Inglewood Storm Improvement. Site B is the retention pond.
Okay,
and the
so
way the
it just
contract.
doesn't have a name. So-
Correct. In the contract, that is supposed to wrap up by December of 2024.
As in it be built?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's not going to be ready before monsoon season next year?
I don't think so. There's a significant amount of infrastructure that has to go in the roadway box culvert, starting at Rotolo Park, moving west to the pond. So they'll start building the pond first and then move east so that when they do make the connection, that the water has somewhere to go.
But have the storm drains all been looked at and cleared out in that area of the city so that heavy rains were looking okay for, because I know there was flooding in June in that area this year.
Sure. So we've implemented a couple of things. To answer your question directly, the surveying and cleaning of the south side will kick off early in 2024 and move throughout the year. In 2023, the north side of the city was done. That said, we have identified several locations that have challenges and have implemented protocols and coordinations with other departments to monitor these locations anytime heavy rain is in the forecast. So throughout the event, Public Works will be monitoring to make sure things are operating as they should be.
Okay, and just one more question. I'm sorry. On Acoma, I know that there are some houses that are at risk for flooding. Not as bad as 2018, but there are risks. There is one house that did flood some. Are there things in place to help prevent flooding for those houses again? Hopefully we won't have a rainy season like we did this year, but who knows what's going to happen. So
Sure.
Do we have protocols in play to help them, sandbags, whatever? You guys are the experts to help prevent those houses from flooding.
So for the two particular residents that I believe you're referring to, those locations are on our list for monitoring during rain events that are of any substantial size. We're also currently working with Excel to remove some debris from the eastern alley due to a potential for clogging.
Okay.
Excel is going out and evaluating removal of those trees, which will eliminate a lot of the debris that is in that alley. That homeowner has also taken steps themselves on private property to greatly improve flow and removal of any water that does pond in that general area. So they've taken some flood-proofing measures as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if they've taken flood-proofing measures, has the city evaluated those plans so it doesn't impact other properties? And I mean, I know at one point there was talk about perhaps looking at purchasing some of those properties. Has that been totally taken off the table?
So I'll speak to the first part about the flood-proofing measures. The resident on the east side of Acoma has done things like previously their stairs were flush with the ground. They have raised that 6 to 8 inches and created a small barrier so the water doesn't have anywhere to go. They've also, at the bottom of their stairs, installed a sump pump on a separate breaker so that if water does get down there, it'll immediately be pumped back out of that stairwell. They were also looking at raising window wells. And so we don't anticipate an impact to surrounding properties with those kind of mitigations. With regard to purchasing, I'll maybe defer a little bit to the city manager, but Mile High does have a program in there if we wanted to explore that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add 2 items. One is that that resident is in touch as of today with actually for the last week, but I saw correspondence today with our community development department that is coordinating that grant program for those improvements. And so she is submitting her invoices for those and getting all of that together. And then we are hoping to add an additional grant program that I don't believe is live yet that will pay for even more, even a greater percentage of improvements to flood-proof homes in that area. With regard to buyouts, this was something that was discussed by the previous council pretty extensively. And at that time, we chose to make the public improvement before we moved into any purchase of property. But certainly that's we stand at the direction of council to move forward. And as Director Rochelle mentioned, there are some matching funds available for that.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
On the new detention pond, will Rotolo flow directly into that detention pond? And
Yes.
then when that detention pond is filled, then Rotolo will start filling and it'll be released from the new detention pond?
Correct. So Rotolo will flow straight into the new detention pond. The existing outfall that's in Rotolo Park today will remain. It's kind of an emergency overflow if needed for Rotolo Park. The new detention pond will have a topping structure, so an outflow control structure that does have a topping elevation. So once that reaches capacity, it will also dump out.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, seeing no other questions, I'll turn it over to Director Van Rye to talk about utilities and South Platte Renew. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I'm here to talk about utilities and South Platte Renew. We'll start with utilities, which is the water and sewer services for the city of Englewood. Our mission is to promote and ensure high quality of life, economic vitality, and a uniquely desirable community identity through the production and delivery of quality water and sanitary sewer collection services. We serve generally about 35,000 people. We serve, for water, we serve all the residences and businesses within the city. We also serve some extraterritorial areas. So if you look in this lower left-hand part of the drawing, you can see where some of the service area extends beyond the city boundary. So we do have a number of extraterritorial customers that we serve. We essentially have the Allen Water Treatment Plant is our primary treatment facility. We have 166 miles of pipe, a couple of high-pressure pump stations, some booster stations. We have some storage tanks. You see the two white overhead storage tanks. As far as wastewater infrastructure, we have 82 miles of collection system, about 1,600 manholes. The wastewater side, the city serves essentially the northern 2/3 of the city. The southern third of the city is served by South Englewood Sanitation District, which is essentially, if you're generally around Quincy and south, is served by South Englewood Sanitation District, which is a sanitary sewer district that serves the city of Englewood plus a number of areas outside the city. As far as the wastewater infrastructure, the majority of the collection goes to South Platte Renew, which we'll cover next. And South Platte Renew is a joint venture between the city of Littleton and city of Englewood and serves a population of 300,000 people. We are broken into 3 divisions in utilities. The operations and maintenance division, within that is distribution and collections and treatment, and our EI&C, which is electrical instrumentation and controls, as well as environmental programs. In business solutions is our utility billing. We do utility billing for those 35,000 customers within the city. We also do utility billing for the connector districts that are served through contract with the city of Englewood. So we bill sanitary services for about 165,000 people throughout the southwest metro area. We also have business support analysts and specialists in data and analytics in that area. And then we also have an engineering program, a division that has 7 FTEs, and that implements planning, optimization, construction management. We also have a contract program manager, which is Hazen and Sawyer, who is leading the efforts around our lead removal program. Our responsibility are to provide drinking water and sanitary services for the city. We do that through planning, design, construction of capital projects. You can see the infrastructure that we maintain. Within there is the raw water system, which is illustrated by the graphic that Sean introduced earlier. You can see we own infrastructure all the way up outside of Winter Park. The city owns Meadow Creek Reservoir as well as an 11-mile pipeline. That system is actually operated by Denver Water, so we have a partnership with Denver Water where they take the water into their Fraser Basin system, and then we take exchanged water at Chatfield Reservoir. So we own the water, we own the system up there, they own systems down here, we trade essentially. And that yields a significant amount of water from our mountain system. We also have a significant water rights portfolio. That water rights portfolio is made up of very senior ditch rights that go back to the 1800s. The city of Englewood is actually positioned very well from a water rights perspective. The portfolio a couple years ago, we estimated the value of was about $500 million. And that is a tremendous asset for the city. We also, as being a regulated drinking water utility, we're regulated by the EPA and CDPHE primarily. We're also regulated by the state engineer's office because we do have some reservoir dams. McClellan Reservoir, which is down by Santa Fe and County Line, is our in-town reservoir that has a high hazard dam associated with it. And then from there, you can see where the water either comes via the South Platte to the Union Ave pump station or down City Ditch to the Allen Treatment Plant. Those are two primary sources to the Allen Treatment Plant. From there, it's treated and then sent to customers' homes throughout the city. We manage this water and sewer enterprise fund. So in 2024, the water enterprise fund budget is just over $47 million. The sewer enterprise fund budget is $29 million. And then the South Platte Renew total operating and capital budget is $40 million. So they're pretty large enterprise funds. The South Platte Renew is actually a set of line items under the sewer enterprise fund within the two cities. And so it's not necessary, it's on its own separate enterprise fund. It's funded through those other enterprise funds. We also manage utility and billing and customer service. And I mentioned there's an extensive amount of customers outside the city that we bill. We have a water and sewer board. And then just as a bonus, we manage the Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation, which is a significant amount of property near the Lucent and C470 interchange that's owned by the city of Englewood. And our primary function as Englewood McClellan Reservoir Foundation is to maximize the revenue for the city out of those properties. And so we have 4 more properties that are yet to be secured for long-term leases. We secured a long-term lease last year, and these leases generally have extensions that can extend all the way to 99 years. So it's important that we get good lease terms in place. Overview of generally what we do. A lot of this I've already talked about. I think the one thing under business solutions I haven't talked about is WIFIA and SRF. So those are two important funding mechanisms that are debt funding mechanisms for us, long-term debt. They have very good favorable interest rates. SRF is actually how we will be accessing the infrastructure money from the infrastructure bill from a couple years ago. And so right now we were originally targeting 70 million. It seems like the amount available keeps going down. We're now targeting 40 million, which we think is actually appropriate because our inventory for our lead service line program is actually coming back more positively. We don't have as many lead service lines out there as the worst case scenario estimated. Under engineering, you can see it's the things I talked about. We do a lot of process optimization, and that in conjunction with operations and maintenance. done a lot of work to refine how the treatment plant works, how we dose chemicals, how we utilize the 2 reservoirs that are on site, how we're maintaining those in a way that has targeted trying to improve one of the most significant issues that the customers have, which is taste, odor, and hardness. You can see our accomplishments. We are implementing the $60.5 million in low interest loans through WIFIA. We're pursuing $40 million through the SRF. We were awarded $426,000 in grants to study and characterize PFAS. So PFAS is forever chemicals. All of our budgeting and forecasting and financial planning right now has an unknown for PFAS because we're not sure what the total cost is going to be. So we're trying to plan for that long term, but it's hard to plan for it long term when we don't even know to what degree it's going to be regulated. You can see we also implemented new development review fees. So what those are is if we provide a development review service for a contractor or a developer, we now have charges to recover all those costs. Sometimes we use outside contract services and we recover all those costs. We focus a lot on taste, odor, and hardness. Our numbers are actually, our complaints have gone down. It's more anecdotal, but we also have seen improvement just in the numbers as it relates to what we're actually producing from taste, odor, and hardness. We're not there yet, but we are making improvements, and that's through that intense optimization of the Allen treatment plant system. We developed an environmental compliance framework. If you remember a few years ago, we were getting a lot of compliance issues. We've largely resolved those, and that's because we've invested in hiring staff to help make sure that we are in compliance with the regulations. We've pilot tested some ozone treatment. We think that'll help with taste and odor. We've installed 35 drinking water sampling stations. That's important for the backflow and cross connection program. We've done some valve replacement and exercising, as well as our annual customer survey. Some additional capital investments we've made. We've improved the electrical instrumentation and controls. That's a programmatic process at the Allen plant that's probably going to take the next 8 to 10 years to really go through the whole system and upgrade those systems, but we're doing it a chunk at a time each year. We made some chemical system improvements. We had a really dangerous chemical we were using, and we converted it to a less dangerous chemical, which was a really important conversion from a safety perspective. We're working on space. We're working on the city ditch piping project, which is one of our biggest projects associated with taste, odor, and hardness. We've initiated a lead reduction program, and the goal of that is to remove all the lead service lines within the city over the next several years. It says we've replaced 60 water distribution valves, but I have to put an asterisk on that because there are 2 to 3 that are still out there because they're very complicated from a traffic control perspective. So we are getting back on the contractor to finish those last 2 or 3 that we have under that original program, but we'll make sure we get them. And then you can see we're implementing an annual water line replacement program, which focused on looping to begin with. We're going to focus moving forward on taste, odor, and hardness, regulatory compliance, city ditch is really important, solids handling, which is the South Reservoir, and our belt filter press. We're looking at converting our metering infrastructure. The bullet on Denver Water Emergency Interconnect is one of the most important things for us for a system resiliency perspective, because that's basically a backup system in case something really bad goes wrong. Having those interconnects will allow us to be fed by a Denver system. We're still working on space, and then we've got lead service line and PFAS, which are somewhat the unknowns that we're working on. We're working on funding long term. Okay, so I have a trivia. So on Saturday, when I was driving up to Buffalo Creek to cut my Christmas tree down, I stopped at the gas station at Tufts and Broadway. How much did I pay per gallon for regular unleaded gas? Tufts and Broadway, the loaf and jug there. What's this? $2.59. 259. Yeah, right. Not bad. I was kind of impressed. Wow. That's better. So what does that have to do with water? So next year in 2024, how much will it cost you per gallon to get water, clean water, drinking water delivered to your house? 2 cents? 5 cents? 1 cent? 0.71 cents. So less than a penny per gallon to have clean drinking water delivered to your house. Gives you... Everybody gets, no, you ain't no kidding. Well, 1 cent's close. Okay, so any questions? I know that was a lot.
Yeah, I have a couple here.
Yes.
With regard to the water sales that we do, what is the revenue approximately on that? Like water sales to Centennial,
I believe it's 2.8 million.
2.8 million?
I think that's right. We just updated those numbers though. So let me get back to you with the actual new number. There's still a little bit of disagreement on some of that. So we're still working through that. It's been a 3-year process, but we're almost there.
And then are there others that we sell water to other than Centennial?
No, actually, in bulk raw water sales like that, no. And the reason why is because the way that Centennial contract is written, it's written that if we have any surplus water in our system that we can sell, we have to make it available to them first. And so they have first right of refusal.
Okay. Does that include Bear Creek?
Yeah, if anything in our system that we can actually get to McClellan Reservoir because they are connected to McClellan as well. If we can get it to McClellan, then we can sell it to them.
We would have to do something with Denver though to get it to McClellan.
No, we can do it with our rights. If there's a right, there's a way that we can potentially exchange it.
Yeah, exchange is what us.
Yeah, we optimize that. We look at the way to maximize that revenue on an annual basis because there's a whole bunch of terms that, there's like a 10-year window of what's the least amount that we paid, which sets the pricing. And so it's important for us to offer the maximum amount that we can and really optimize that. And so we've spent the last few years really pushing that up to help maximize the revenue out of that.
And Bear Creek, we're not bringing in any Bear Creek water into the plant. It's all coming off.
No,
the river right now in the ditch.
I'm pretty sure we can get it to Union Ave pump station because I believe there's a pipe from the old treatment plant that's kind of down off of Oxford. There's an old water treatment plant that's down off of Oxford that has a pipe that I believe gets back to the point where you can intake from the Union Ave. But I'd have to verify that physically if that's the case. I believe that's the case.
Okay.
So that would be Union Ave where we could take that water. And that's McBroom Ditch is that ditch system.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. You get those water sales.
Yeah.
Well, approximate.
It's an important revenue stream for the city, and it's a 100-year contract. We're in year 20 of that 100-year contract, and so it creates a important revenue stream that helps to offset the cost of water to our citizens.
I have a quick question. And if you mentioned this, I apologize if I missed it. I noticed in your org chart, you have Sarah Stone managing both, I think it's business solutions plus the engineering department. Are you planning to backfill the deputy director of engineering, or is that something that's a long-term solution for Sarah to do both?
Right now, it's a long-term solution because Sarah's doing it extremely well. So she's a licensed professional engineer and she has an MBA. And she's spent a significant amount of time. She was an engineer early in her career, and then she transitioned to utility. She was a utility rate construction or consultant for CH2M Hill, And so most of her career has actually been in the water rates and fees arena, but she's also a licensed engineer.
Okay,
So
thank you.
she fits a unique skill set.
Indeed.
Any other questions? Okay, South Platte Renew usually goes faster. Okay, so our mission at South Platte Renew is we're renewing water for Colorado's future. We went through this really awesome internal program a few years ago to redevelop vision, mission, and values, and you can see what we've come up with. And really that vision has stuck for people, and one of the important things is people who are, if you're working on a pump, you can tie your work to that vision, which is really, and the staff came up with this. They worked for like 8 months to figure this out and ultimately came up with that. I think it's a really good encapsulation of what we do. It's a big facility. It's although it's somewhat well hidden. It's right next to the service center. So if you're going on Santa Fe and you look to the west, right before you get to Dartmouth, you see a bunch of silver domes. That's South Platte Renew. We have 53 acres. We have 26 buildings, 50 plus tanks. We treat around 20 million gallons a day. We treated 7.3 billion gallons last year. And we do what nature does, except for we do it in a much more accelerated fashion. So we treat water in about 18 hours, solids in 28 days, and gas in minutes. We serve 300,000 customers as a joint venture. So it's Littleton and Englewood own it 50-50. But you can see that those 19 connector districts extend all the way down to the brown areas, Roxborough. The yellow area is Southgate. That goes all the way down to like where the Cabela's is at Lincoln and I-25. The purple is Ken Carl Valley. And so it's essentially the southwest metro area, with the exception of that rectangular white square at the bottom is Highlands Ranch. We don't serve Highlands Ranch. We are I like to think of us as a industrial manufacturing facility. And so we take raw materials and we convert it into 3 usable products that we either return directly to the environment or we sell. And that's water, solids, and liquid solids and gas. We are governed by a joint use agreement. So this is the joint venture agreement. The last update of this was December of 1982. It establishes the governance of the facility. There's annually our annual joint councils meeting that we have in August, and then day-to-day, month-to-month is managed by the supervisory committee. This is what the makeup is. You have the 2 councils that ultimately direct the supervisory committee. The supervisory committee is made up of the 2 city managers and the 2 public works directors from the 2 cities. You can also see the connector districts that come through the city of Englewood and the city of Littleton. There's a couple of them that actually come through both, so Bomar being one of them. But there are more that come through Englewood, so there's a little bit more flow through Englewood than Littleton. We have 4 divisions. So much like utilities, we have operations and maintenance, we have engineering, and we have business solutions. However, because it's such a highly regulated process, we have a complete division dedicated to environmental programs and our environmental compliance. That also includes a fully staffed on-site lab because we have a tremendous amount of testing that we have to do on a daily basis. We also have pre-treatment, which are the staff that go out into the community of those 300,000 people to ensure that there are not illicit discharge or permitted. We have several permitted facilities. So Lockheed Martin is one of those permitted facilities. So they have permit limits that we work with them on an annual basis so that we ensure that what they discharge to the facility does not damage it. Operations and maintenance is pretty much as it sounds. Engineering does the same thing. We have engineering, asset management, planning, and then business solutions is we have a large public outreach component there. as well as some internal IT that we have within the facility. You want me to speed it up? Okay. All right. So we did this. So we completed the Chem-PUV project. It was really important. Our VIP project program is very important to helping us defer Reg 31. We can talk about that in greater detail. And then we secured a BioKey pilot. We have really ramped up the pilot research center. So this is partnerships. So this is going to help us figure out how to solve our long-term problems. These are all the places that we have ongoing partnerships with. We have a number of studies that are helping us advance our treatment processes and also improve our revenues and efficiencies. We implemented a safety program. It's a pretty dangerous place, and there's a lot of dangerous elements, and I felt like safety was not the priority that it should have been, so we implemented a culture. And then we focused a lot on employee experience, so we conducted 70 state interviews, which really gave us a lot of good data on how people like to work there. We are part of a number of industry organizations where we have leadership roles, our staff has leadership roles. We've won those 4 awards this year. We actually won 2 more awards that are not listed there. One is a Project of the Year award through ENR, and then a Excellence Award through NACWA for leadership program. Our goals moving forward are these 5 strategic goals: proactive long-range planning, fiscal responsibility, working on leveraging innovation and partnerships, SPR safe, and the employee experience. And that is it. It always goes faster. Any questions on South Platte Renew? Okay, thank you.
That's actually the end of our presentation. So what, I have had one request on the break, and that was a little more information on gifts that you may be offered or receive. And so I believe, City Attorney Niles, were you planning on a study session on the council policy hand manual? Did I remember hearing that?
No, but we certainly could do that. And the state, we have a gift limit, I believe it's $25. But the state raised its limit recently. And so we had discussed one-on-one with city council, should we just align with the state limit? I think with inflation, you might be able to get a lunch for $25 if you're so inclined. But council wasn't interested in expanding to align with state law at that time.
But we do have a number of policies that, again, are in your council resource guide, but we're glad to go into a little deeper dive on any of those. So maybe you could just let us know at the next council meeting during Members' Choice if you'd like a little more information on any of the topics in the council handbook. Any other things that we should cover? I also just want to apologize to Member Prang, who is online and has been for some time. We have been sending things to both personal and work email addresses. The city email addresses are working. We did not send the agenda packet to her personal email, so that is on us. But luckily she was able to join us, and she sends her sincerest apologies, but I apologize to her on behalf of the city. Does anyone have anything else before we wrap up? All right, well, thank you to all of you for your participation, your questions, your comments, and to the leadership team and fill-ins for a great job on all the presentations. Thank you.